Chapter 2872. Apart from the steward who kept pleading, the others were silent. If Qin Feiyang was really unreasonable, they could still stand up for the steward. But now, even the chief pavilion master had personally announced that Qin Feiyang would be in charge of the treasure pavilion from now on. What else could they say? In other words, Qin Feiyang was now the chief pavilion master of the treasure pavilion. The steward was just his subordinate. As a subordinate, offending the head of the household was something that could not be tolerated no matter where it was. Fine. On account of your hard work in the treasure pavilion all these years, I'll be lenient. Qin Feiyang said lightly. Thank you, sir. The steward was overjoyed. I hereby announce that you and Ren Xiaolan are officially expelled from the treasure pavilion. Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, Ren Xiaolan froze. Thank you for your mercy, sir. However, the steward's face was filled with gratitude. Seeing this, Ren Xiaolan hurriedly sent a voice transmission. Sir, what are you doing? You've been expelled from the treasure pavilion, and you're thanking him? Huh? Expelled from the treasure pavilion? The steward was stunned. Obviously, he did not hear Qin Feiyang's words clearly. He hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, You're joking, right? Qin Feiyang said lightly, Do I look like I'm joking? No. Although I've offended you, it's not a big deal. Just punish me. Is there a need to expel me from the treasure pavilion? The steward said anxiously. This matter is indeed not a big deal, but your character is not suitable to continue staying in the treasure pavilion. Qin Feiyang shook his head. What's wrong with my character? The steward suppressed his anger and frowned. Qin Feiyang said, Do you want me to say it in public? Say it. The steward desperately suppressed his anger and growled. You're aggrieved? All right. I'll explain it to everyone. Qin Feiyang smirked coldly and turned to look at Supreme Cloud. I'm afraid even you don't know about this. What is it? Supreme Cloud was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, taking advantage of their position, taking bribes and bending the law, stuffing their own pockets. Supreme Cloud raised an eyebrow. When the steward heard this, his gaze trembled slightly. Qin Feiyang said, Because of Ren Xiaolan's matter, I sent Hua Yi to meet him. Can you guess what Hua Yi discovered on him? The steward hurriedly said, Please don't say it. I'm convinced, okay? I will leave the treasure pavilion immediately. If you want to leave now, you have to get my permission first. Supreme Cloud's eyes glinted coldly. The steward's eyes trembled as he looked at Qin Feiyang pleadingly. However, Qin Feiyang turned a blind eye to it. He looked at Supreme Cloud and said, Hua Yi found a wooden box on the steward's body. Inside it was his father's memorial tablet. Supreme Cloud said, I know this. He can be considered a filial person. Do you really think so? Qin Feiyang smiled mockingly. What else? Supreme Cloud was suspicious. When Hua Yi saw the memorial tablet, he also thought that he was a filial person, but in fact, he was not. This memorial tablet was just a cover. Because there was a secret compartment hidden in the wooden box. In this secret compartment, there was a yin and yang ring. In the yin and yang ring, he hid the things he embezzled. Qin Feiyang said. As soon as these words came out, it caused a commotion. Using his father's memorial tablet to cover up the treasures he had embezzled? If it was true, then it was not just embezzling, but also treason. It was a humiliation to the undead of his father's generation. Even using the undead, this kind of person deserved to die. The steward hurriedly cried out, Lord, I'm innocent. There is no such thing. It's purely false, I can testify to this. The steward did take advantage of his position to embezzle a lot of treasures. Ren Xiaolan suddenly spoke. You. The steward glared at her angrily. In fact, I'm not the only one who knows. Many people in the treasure pavilion know it in their hearts, but because of the steward's identity, no one dares to say it. Ren Xiaolan looked at Supreme Cloud and said, "I'll kill you." The steward roared and slapped out angrily. One had to know. The steward was a half-step invincible realm expert. The lethality of his full-strength slap could be imagined. Ren Xiaolan immediately screamed as her head burst open and her divine soul was annihilated. Killing out of anger. It seems that this matter is true. Everyone muttered. But Qin Feiyang had no sympathy for Ren Xiaolan's death. Because Ren Xiaolan reported the steward purely for her own sake. As the steward of the treasure pavilion, you should protect the interests of the treasure pavilion. But you took advantage of your position to embezzle treasures. This is disloyal to the treasure pavilion. And you betrayed the trust and cultivation of the chief pavilion master in you. As a child, you used your father's memorial tablet to cover up these treasures. This is unfilial. So disloyal and unfilial. May I ask if you are qualified to continue to stay in the treasure pavilion? Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Hearing this, the steward's eyes flashed with a cold light as he turned and pounced on Qin Feiyang. You're courting death. Murderous intent flashed in Supreme Cloud's eyes as a terrifying aura suddenly emerged and imprisoned the steward. Let me go, I'm going to kill him. The steward roared, his eyes full of hatred. Isn't this what you asked me to say? Originally, if you were willing to leave directly, you could still save your life. I wouldn't have bothered to kill you. Unfortunately, you have to seek your own death. Qin Feiyang shook his head. I won't let you go even if I die and become a ghost. The steward roared. Become a ghost? Now, even if you want to become a ghost, you have to ask if I agree. Qin Feiyang said. The steward's eyes trembled. Qin Feiyang turned to Supreme Cloud and said, destroy his soul. Supreme Cloud nodded. He took a step forward and slapped down. Ah! With a shrill scream, the steward's head exploded on the spot. Supreme Cloud then grabbed the steward's divine soul and clenched his fist, destroying it on the spot. Is this the strength of the chief pavilion lord? A half-step imperishable realm martial artist killed instantly. Terrifying, too terrifying. Everyone's heart trembled. That's not the point. Haven't you noticed that the chief pavilion lord seems to be obedient to Qin Feiyang? Obedient? Now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case. What's going on? Could it be that the chief pavilion lord has become Qin Feiyang's subordinate? Everyone was shocked. Qin Feiyang and Supreme Cloud paid no attention to these people's discussions. Qin Feiyang turned to Du Yuntian and the other two. We are willing to submit. The three of them trembled and knelt on the ground to beg. Did you pass the test? Qin Feiyang looked at Jiang Dafei and asked. No. Jiang Dafei shook his head. A trace of disappointment crept onto Qin Feiyang's face as he said to himself, Wang Ming, you can't blame me for this. As you wish. Wang Ming's voice rang out in Qin Feiyang's mind with a trace of disappointment. Qin Feiyang glanced at the three of them and nodded at Jiang Dafei. Jiang Dafei understood and killed the three of them in an instant. What should be dealt with has been dealt with. You'll be in charge of the rest. Qin Feiyang looked at Supreme Cloud and said. Okay. Supreme Cloud nodded. Feiyang, let me out for a while. Right at this moment. Yizhong's voice suddenly rang out in Qin Feiyang's mind. Why are you coming out? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Don't worry about that. Yizhong said. Okay. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. With a thought, Yizhong appeared beside him. It's Chief Temple Master Yi. He's really not dead. With Yizhong's appearance, the place fell into chaos again. Yi Zhong took a step forward and stood in the air above with a smile. As you can see, I'm not dead. But many people saw Qin Feiyang kill you with their own eyes. Everyone was suspicious. That's just a show put on by Qin Feiyang and this old man. It's not convenient to talk about the details. In short, Feiyang is a very outstanding young man. He's also this old man's pride. Yi Zhong said. So you're here specifically to explain this matter. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Actually, there was no need for that. It was fine as long as he had a clear conscience. Hearing this, everyone was stunned for a moment before they looked at Qin Feiyang. Sorry. I've wronged you. We shouldn't have blindly kicked up a fuss. Apologies like these rose and fell one after another. It's okay. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. But why don't you explain? Aren't you afraid that we'll really treat you as a villain? Some people were puzzled. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, as long as I have a clear conscience. Hearing this, everyone suddenly fell silent. He didn't care about rumors as long as he had a clear conscience. Such a state of mind was really rare. In comparison, they were like a group of lunatics who scolded each other without figuring out anything. There's another important thing that this old man wants to announce. Yi Zhong said with a solemn face. What's the matter? Everyone looked at Yi Zhong suspiciously. The dragons have been sealed by us on Divine Dragon Island. The era of dragons' rule has come to an end. The current ancient world belongs to us humans. Yi Zhong roared in high spirits. What? Everyone looked at each other. I know it's hard for you to believe, but it's true. And the person who did all this is Qin Feiyang. His companions, Feng Daji, Fire Lotus, Hua Yi, Five-Clawed Golden Dragon, and those heaven-defying artifacts are now guarding the inland sea. As long as they're here, the dragons can forget about stepping out of Divine Dragon Island and the inland sea. Yi Zhong shouted. Swish! Everyone once again looked at Qin Feiyang in unison. Is this true? Someone asked. Qin Feiyang nodded. The era of dragons' rule has really come to an end? Someone asked again. Yes. Qin Feiyang smiled. It's finally over. It's finally over. We can finally straighten our backs and be people. I've been dreaming of this day. I've really had enough of being bullied by the dragons all these years. Thank you, Qin Feiyang, this won't do. I have to tell my friends and let them be happy, yes, yes, yes. I'll also tell my friends and family, the sky of the ancient world has finally changed. Everyone was excited. Especially those who hated the dragons. They couldn't help but cry tears of joy. After so many years, they were finally free. Humans could finally live with dignity. Chapter 2873. Swoosh. Qin Feiyang flew to Yi Zhong's side and transmitted his voice, Master, isn't it too early to announce it now? Although the dragons were indeed sealed on Divine Dragon Island, they had not been eliminated. As long as they were truly eliminated, the dragon's rule would truly end. It's a little early. But there are benefits to doing this. At least it will give them hope. In the future, when we face the dragons again, everyone will truly unite. Yi Zhong thought to himself. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, then nodded and said with a smile, all right then. In this aspect, his master was more experienced than him. 2 days later. This matter spread throughout the entire Divine Land. All the cities, big and small, were discussing this matter. Really? Are you sure? Yes. This is what Yi Zhong, the Grand Hall Master, said himself. Grand Hall Master Yi Zhong? Isn't he one of the dragons? Why is he following Qin Feiyang now? Qin Feiyang is the young lord of the Dragon Slayer Palace. Could Yi Zhong be a spy sent by the Dragon Slayer Palace? Even if he is a spy, he is doing it for the good of mankind. We all misunderstood him in the past. Yes. We used to think that he joined the dragons for status and vanity. Only now do we know that he did it to destroy the dragons. If we see him in the future, we must be even more respectful. That's right. In order to destroy the dragons, he did not hesitate to bear the infamy for so long. Even his family did not dare to walk in front of others. So in the future, we can't just look at the surface of everything. Take Qin Feiyang for example. Did he really kill Yi Zhong? No. That was just a show to deceive the dragons. And the Grand Hall Master? How deep was his conflict with Qin Feiyang in the past? Even Qin Feiyang caused havoc in the treasure pavilion several times. But in reality, their relationship is better than anyone else's. In order to deal with the dragons, they have sacrificed too much. That's right. We can't let them fight alone anymore. In the future, when we face the dragons, we have to work together. True enough. The effect that Yi Zhong wanted was successfully achieved. Against the dragons, Qin Feiyang and the Dragon Slayer Palace alone were definitely not enough. He had to unite all the humans. As the saying goes, there is strength in numbers. As long as everyone was united, there was nothing they couldn't do. However, for Qin Feiyang, the happiest thing was that his master's reputation had improved. In the past, although no one dared to say it out loud, they were actually cursing Master in their hearts. But now, the divine land was full of praises and admiration for the Master. Although this wasn't the truth, no one would expose it. From now on, whether it was Master, Yi Cheng, Yi Shui, or Old Master Yi, they naturally didn't have to live in seclusion in the mountains and forests anymore. Regarding this big change, there was someone who was happier than Qin Feiyang. This person was Yi Cheng. After bearing the infamy for so many years, how could he not be happy now that he was finally free? Moreover, the reason why he followed Qin Feiyang back then was to wash away these infamy so that the descendants of the Yi family could walk out with dignity. Now, his wish was finally fulfilled. Early morning. In the sky above a mountain range. Two figures were walking side by side. It was Qin Feiyang and Supreme Cloud. Where are we going? Qin Feiyang glanced down suspiciously. You'll know in a while. Supreme Cloud smiled faintly. Do you have to be so mysterious? Qin Feiyang was speechless. After these 2 days of getting along, the relationship between the two was more harmonious than before. Soon, villages of various sizes entered Qin Feiyang's line of sight. In these villages, 1 or 2 mortals could be seen. That was incredible. One had to know. In a place like the Divine Land, mortals were almost impossible to find. Because the essence qi here was too rich, even if one did not have the talent for cultivation, he or she could barely step onto the path of cultivation. Unless one had no cultivation ability at all, he or she would be a mortal for the rest of his or her life. In other words, the appearance of mortals meant that this was a very remote place. Another short while passed. A small valley appeared in Qin Feiyang's line of sight. In the valley, there was a simple wooden building, 2 stories high and extremely old. It was surrounded by weeds and jungles. Obviously, it had been abandoned for a long time. But at this moment, in front of the wooden building stood more than a dozen figures. There were men and women, old and young, and the aura they exuded was extremely powerful. Except for one young woman, almost all of them were in the half-step imperishable realm. Qin Feiyang looked at those people with a blank expression. How could there be so many supreme experts in such an ordinary place? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked at the young woman. Isn't this Shangguanqiu? She's here too? When the two landed in the valley, a group of people immediately came forward and said respectfully, "Greetings, Chief Pavilion Master." "Yes." The Chief Pavilion Master nodded and pointed at Qin Feiyang next to him. He smiled and said, "I don't need to introduce this person." "Of course not. Who doesn't know Qin Feiyang now?" "Hello, young Master Qin." One of the old men faintly smiled and cupped his hands towards Qin Feiyang. "Hello, Elder." Qin Feiyang saluted back and then looked at Supreme Cloud suspiciously. They are the stewards of the treasure pavilions in the strongest cities in the Divine Land. For example, this old man is the steward of the treasure pavilion in Snow Dragon City. Supreme Cloud said. "I see." Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, "You want to introduce them to me?" "Of course. After all, you are the Chief Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion now. These people must be handed over to you to manage." Supreme Cloud said. "I'm the Chief Pavilion Master?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Yes. 2 days ago, didn't I announce in public that you are in charge of the Treasure Pavilion?" Supreme Cloud said. No. You should manage it. I really can't do it." Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. "But," Supreme Cloud frowned. "With my little ability, how can I have the confidence to manage such a big treasure pavilion?" Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. "All right then. I'll take care of it for now." Supreme Cloud nodded. "You're not taking care of it. You're still the Chief Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion. You'll still be in charge of all the affairs in the future." "Of course," Qin Feiyang leaned over and whispered in Supreme Cloud's ear, "you can focus on training Shengguanqiu. She's very interested in this, and her ability is also very good." Supreme Cloud glanced at Shengguanqiu and said telepathically, "Are you interested in her?" "Am I?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "If not, will you take care of her so much?" Supreme Cloud was suspicious. Cough, cough. Qin Feiyang coughed and said inwardly, "Don't talk nonsense. She and I are pure friends." "Pure?" Supreme Cloud looked at Qin Feiyang in disdain. "It's true," Qin Feiyang said. "Who would believe that?" Supreme Cloud sneered and said, "Even if you don't want to be the Chief Pavilion Master, you should at least know them. Let me introduce them to you one by one." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. After a round of introductions, Supreme Cloud looked at the group of stewards and said, "You probably don't know about my situation yet, right?" Everyone shook their heads. "I'm one of the 4 Supreme Emperors of the Dragon Slayer Temple hiding in the dark." Supreme Cloud said. "What? You're a Supreme Emperor of the Dragon Slayer Temple?" Everyone was shocked. "That's right." Supreme Cloud nodded. The group of people looked at each other. This news was too shocking. A middle-aged man said, "In that case, we're also considered members of the Dragon Slayer Temple?" "No. You have nothing to do with the Dragon Slayer Temple. The person you'll be loyal to in the future is Qin Feiyang." Supreme Cloud said. "Him?" The group of people frowned. "Yes. Because I'm also working for him now. Whoever disagrees will be killed without mercy." Supreme Cloud's eyes flashed coldly. The group of people was shocked. Even the Chief Pavilion Master was working for Qin Feiyang. What was going on? You don't need to know the details. You just need to remember that Qin Feiyang's words are the Imperial Edict. Supreme Cloud said. "Yes." The group of people looked at each other and replied respectfully. Supreme Cloud turned to Qin Feiyang and said, "You can control them. That's a must." Qin Feiyang smiled and formed seals with both hands. Slave seals appeared one after another. "Don't resist." Supreme Cloud glanced at the group of people. With Supreme Cloud, a supreme expert in the imperishable stage, who dared to act rashly? All of them obediently accepted the control of the slave seals. Supreme Cloud looked at the group of people and said, "Next, I'll officially announce that Shengguanqiu will be the chief steward of the treasure pavilion from now on." Chief steward? When did the treasure pavilion have such a position? The group of people was suspicious. This is a new position that I've set. The so-called chief steward will be in charge of all of you. To put it simply, she'll be second only to me. Supreme Cloud said. Then we have to listen to her too? The old man asked. That's right. Not only you, but all the treasure pavilions in the entire ancient world have to listen to her. Supreme Cloud nodded. The old man frowned and said, but her strength and ability are not at that level yet. The others were also unconvinced. Strength and ability grow slowly. This is why I've called you here today. You have to assist her well and impart your experience to her. If there are no accidents, she'll be the next chief pavilion master. Supreme Cloud said. This, the group of people frowned deeply. They were basically senior figures in the treasure pavilion. Suddenly, a little girl came to be their superior. They definitely felt uncomfortable. What's wrong? You don't agree? Supreme Cloud raised his eyebrows. We don't dare. The group of people quickly lowered their heads. It seems that you're not convinced. Since that's the case, I'll announce that Shengguanqiu will be my disciple from now on. Supreme Cloud then looked at Shengguanqiu and asked, "Are you willing to be my disciple?" Shengguanqiu was caught off guard. He could not help but cast a pleading look at Qin Feiyang. Silly woman, Qin Feiyang muttered and said telepathically, "Of course you have to agree to such a good thing. Hurry up and acknowledge him as your master." But I already have a master. Shengguanqiu said to himself. Isn't it good to have a few more masters? Besides, only then will these people sincerely help you. Qin Feiyang said. Chapter 2874. All right. Shengguanqiu answered in his mind and knelt on the ground. After the ceremony, he said respectfully, "Greetings, Master." Very good. Supreme Cloud nodded and smiled. He waved his hand and said, "Get up." Shengguanqiu got up. Supreme Cloud looked at the group of stewards and asked, "Does anyone have any objections?" They looked at each other and smiled bitterly. She had already become his disciple. Who dared to have any objections? Shengguanqiu looked at the group of people and bowed. "Seniors, please take care of me in the future." She was not arrogant or complacent because she had become Supreme Cloud's disciple. She was sincere and humble. "I dare not take care of you. Let's learn from each other and help each other in the future." The elder smiled. "Senior, you're too humble. I'm still inexperienced. There are still many things to learn from you in the future." Shengguanqiu said. The elder chuckled. The group of stewards was quite satisfied with Shengguanqiu's attitude. Perhaps, she was really a good young man. Is this arrangement okay? Revered Cloud withdrew his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang. Very good. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. The road had been paved for Shengguanqiu. How far she could go in the future would depend on her own ability. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang asked telepathically, "Where is the dragon-slaying palace?" Supreme Cloud was slightly stunned and asked in confusion, "Didn't your ancestors tell you?" "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Supreme Cloud said telepathically, "Do you want me to take you there?" "Sure." Qin Feiyang nodded. Supreme Cloud looked at Shengguanqiu and the group of stewards and said with a smile, "Qin Feiyang and I still have some matters to attend to. You can make your own arrangements." "Yes." The group of stewards nodded respectfully. "Girl, do your best." Supreme Cloud smiled encouragingly at Shengguanqiu. "Thank you, Master. I will." Shengguanqiu nodded. Supreme Cloud waved his hand and an altar opened. He led Qin Feiyang onto it. Qin Feiyang looked at the small wooden building and thought to himself, "This can't be your residence, right?" "Exactly. It's just that I haven't been back for so long that weeds have grown out." Supreme Cloud smiled. "Ugh." Qin Feiyang was stunned, then he shook his head and laughed. No one would have thought that the pavilion master of the treasure pavilion would live in such a remote place. In the northwest of the Divine Land, in the depths of a mountain. In this mountain range, there were countless villages of various sizes, and the people who lived there were also the most ordinary people. Among the ferocious beasts in the mountains, the strongest was only a battle arch. A place like this was the most inconspicuous place in the Divine Land. Even if you passed by here, you would not take a second look at it. However, at this moment. Supreme Cloud had brought Qin Feiyang here. However, Supreme Cloud did not utter a word as he silently flew into the mountain with Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang looked confused. About a moment later, the first village came into Qin Feiyang's line of sight. There were about 10,000 households, surrounded by mountains and rivers, and it was quiet and elegant. Everything in the village was extremely simple, and he did not sense any powerful aura in the village. It looked like an ordinary village. It was then that Supreme Cloud came to a halt. Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Supreme Cloud scanned the village and said with a smile, "This is the base of the dragon-slaying palace." "What?" Qin Feiyang looked at the village in shock. This was too unexpected. The dragon-slaying palace had such a small village? "You can't tell, right?" Supreme Cloud asked. "I really can't." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Actually, to be exact, this entire mountain is the base of the dragon-slaying palace." Supreme Cloud scanned the mountain in front of him. "The entire mountain?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and said in surprise, "You mean, all the villages in this mountain belong to the dragon-slaying palace?" "That's right." Supreme Cloud nodded. Qin Feiyang was extremely incredulous. This mountain stretched as far as the eye could see. It was hard to imagine how many villages there were and how many people there were. There are more than 100 villages here. On average, each village has about 20,000 people. Supreme Cloud said. More than 1,000 villages, with 20,000 people in each village? Then, doesn't that mean there are more than 20 million people? Qin Feiyang was shocked. More or less. Supreme Cloud nodded. So many? Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. It was really beyond his imagination. And the people here are hiding their cultivation base. Look at that woodcutter over there. Supreme Cloud pointed at a certain place in the mountain below. Qin Feiyang looked over and saw a woodcutter holding a machete, chopping firewood with all his might. The woodcutter was wearing a pair of beastskin pants and his upper body was bare. He only had the cultivation base of a martial master and looked extremely ordinary. From the way he dressed and behaved, one would not think that he was a hidden expert. And there, Supreme Cloud pointed in another direction. Qin Feiyang looked over and saw a young man in his 20s carrying a fierce beast and walking towards the village. In short, the scene presented here was the life of an ordinary person. The dragons are very powerful, so they have to use this method to hide their identities. Supreme Cloud said. Qin Feiyang nodded and frowned. The security here doesn't seem to be very good. Look, we've been in the mountain for so long, but no one has noticed us. Do you really think we haven't noticed? Suddenly, a laugh came from below. The woodcutter and the youth carrying the ferocious beast raised their heads to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Whoosh! The two men put down the fierce beast and machete and stepped in front of Qin Feiyang and Supreme Cloud. They bowed and said, "Greetings, Supreme Cloud and young Supreme Lord." Supreme Cloud nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at them suspiciously and asked, "When did you notice us?" "We noticed you and Supreme Cloud as soon as you entered the mountain. But we knew it was you, so we didn't say anything," the woodcutter said with a smile. "Young Supreme Lord, don't underestimate the security of the Dragon Slayer Palace. Around this mountain, even if a fly flies in, we'll know at once," the young man said. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Supreme Cloud looked at the two and asked, "Where are Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang?" On the same day. After Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang discussed with Yizhong, they left the Black Tortoise realm and returned here. The two sovereigns are arranging for the transfer, the woodcutter said. "It hasn't been arranged yet?" Supreme Cloud frowned. "It's very simple to transfer. After all, this mountain is formed by a spatial divine item. It can be moved with a thought. But we have many members outside at the moment. We have to wait for them to receive the news and rush back before we can transfer," the woodcutter said. "I see." Supreme Cloud nodded. "What did you say? This mountain is a spatial divine item?" Qin Feiyang looked at the woodcutter in surprise. "That's right. This mountain is not only a spatial divine item, but also a heaven-defying divine item. It's called Myriad Phoenix Mountain. The owner of Myriad Phoenix Mountain is Lord Sunlight Emperor," the woodcutter said. "And it's a heaven-defying divine item." Qin Feiyang glanced at the mountains and rivers below with an extremely astonished expression. No wonder these people were so confident that they could discover a fly right away. It was because divine items had their own spirits. Just like the ancient city of the Nether King in the Nether King's Hell, once you entered the ancient city, your whereabouts would be exposed. Unless you activated the concealment technique in advance, you wouldn't touch anything. The concealment technique might not work in Myriad Phoenix Mountain. Because the ancient city of the Nether King was only a supreme divine item. And this Myriad Phoenix Mountain was a heaven-defying divine item. A heaven-defying divine item spirit would definitely be more powerful than a supreme divine item spirit. Even if he activated the concealment technique, he might still be discovered by the spirit of Myriad Phoenix Mountain. "Young Supreme Lord, since you're here, why don't you come to the village and have a seat? Everyone has admired you for a long time," the woodcutter said with a smile. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, "There's still a long way to go. I'll visit everyone in the future. I'll go look for the two ancestors first. I have something to discuss with them." There was a hint of disappointment in the woodcutter's eyes. He nodded with a smile and said, "That's true. Anyway, we'll be transferred to the Black Tortoise world soon. There's no hurry." Qin Feiyang looked at Supreme Cloud and asked, "Where are the ancestors?" "They're in the central region, of course." Supreme Cloud waved his hand and led Qin Feiyang into the depths of the region. On the way, many people noticed Qin Feiyang and Supreme Cloud. But seeing the two of them in a hurry, they didn't disturb them. A moment later, Supreme Cloud stopped above a village with Qin Feiyang. There were more than 10,000 people in this village. It was no different from other villages. But here, Qin Feiyang sensed several familiar auras. They were Qin Batian, Lu Zhengyang, the Mermaid Emperor, the Black-Winged Emperor, and the White-Winged Emperor. "They're there." Supreme Cloud pointed at a small wooden building in the village. Qin Feiyang looked down. The small wooden building was 2 stories high, without any fancy decorations. It looked very simple. In front of the wooden building was a small courtyard with some vegetables. At this moment, Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang were sitting at the stone table in the courtyard, looking up at him and Supreme Cloud. Qin Feiyang smiled and took a step forward, landing in the courtyard. Why are you here? Qin Batian got up and asked with a smile. Qin Feiyang said, I was curious, so I asked Supreme Cloud to bring me here. Are you disappointed? Qin Batian asked. I'm not disappointed, but I'm surprised. Qin Feiyang said. Qin Batian smiled, turned to look at Supreme Cloud, and said, I thought you wouldn't come to the dragon-slaying palace anymore. If Qin Feiyang didn't want to come, would I come to this damned place? Supreme Cloud snorted. Qin Batian smiled bitterly and said, You don't have to be so cold. Although you've followed Feiyang, you're still a supreme of the dragon-slaying palace. I said I'm leaving the dragon-slaying palace. Supreme Cloud said. Qin Batian and Lu Xingyang looked at each other, their eyes full of helplessness. Why was this woman still as difficult to get along with as before? Where are the Mermaid Emperor and the others? Qin Feiyang looked around and asked suspiciously. They've all gone out to help. After all, the Divine Land is so big. It's not easy to get rid of all the dragons. Qin Batian said. When will they come back? Qin Feiyang asked. I'm not sure. Qin Batian shook his head, then pointed to the stone table next to him and said, Let's sit down and talk. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. The four of them sat around the table, and the teapot on the table emitted a faint fragrance of tea. Chapter 2875. Qin Batian poured a cup of tea and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang took the teacup and tasted it. Looking at Qin Batian and Lu Xingyang, he said, I have something to discuss with you. What is it? Both of them looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, I want to send Fire Lotus and the others to cultivate in seclusion. Given Qin Batian and Lu Xingyang's intelligence, as long as they heard his words, they would be able to understand his intentions. Qin Batian was slightly taken aback and asked suspiciously, You mean, you want us to send people to guard the inland sea? Qin Feiyang nodded. Qin Batian was a little hesitant. Qin Feiyang was the one who sealed off the dragons. Are you not willing to go? Supreme Cloud frowned. How am I not willing? Qin Batian shook his head and smiled bitterly. You know how strong the dragons are. I'm worried that the strength of the Dragon Slayer Temple is not enough. Supreme Cloud said, Can't you just take your heaven-defying divine weapons? Qin Batian said, There's no problem with heaven-defying divine weapons, but we only have 4 of them. Guarding the 4 directions is just right. Supreme Cloud said. Just right, but I feel that it's a little difficult. Qin Batian said worriedly. That won't happen. Although the dragons have sovereign divine weapons, no one can control them. As for heaven-defying divine weapons, the princes of the dragons still have one. But it's difficult for one to compete with 4 heaven-defying divine weapons. I believe that the dragons won't choose to fight back before Long Zun breaks through. We'll talk about it later. When the time comes, we'll choose to cultivate in seclusion on the coast of the inland sea. If there's any movement, we'll know immediately and can immediately come out from the Black Tortoise domain to provide support. Qin Feiyang said. Qin Batian smiled and said, Since you have already considered it, then fine, I will send 4 deity emperors to guard the internal sea. 4 divine emperors, Qin Feiyang murmured, there are 8 deity emperors in the dragon-slaying palace, right? Yes. Qin Batian nodded. I remember Venerable Beast and the others said that the 8 divine emperors will follow the 4 venerable sovereigns. In other words, each of you has 2 god kings under you. Wang Ming, Yangli, follow me from now on. Mermaid Emperor, Black-Winged Emperor, and White-Winged Emperor, needless to say, they are definitely your people. What about the other 3? Qin Feiyang asked. The other 3 are the Sword Emperor, the Rain Emperor, and the Ice Emperor. The Sword Emperor is one of us. He can definitely be trusted. As for the Rain Emperor and the Ice Emperor, they belong to revered Cloud and revered Beast. Qin Batian said. Then what about the Rain Emperor and Ice Emperor's current positions and attitudes? Qin Feiyang asked. They are all smart people. They know that revered Cloud and Beast have submitted to you, so their positions and attitudes will change accordingly. Qin Batian smiled. That's good. But I think it's better to control them in case of any accidents. Qin Feiyang said. Qin Batian smiled. They are revered Cloud and Beast's people. If you want to control them, you have to ask revered Cloud and Beast first. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at revered Cloud. Why are you looking at me? Do I dare to say no now? Revered Cloud pursed his lips. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, saying, if you can promise me that they won't cause any trouble behind my back, I will not control them. I can't guarantee that. After all, you may know a person's face but not his heart. Only they know what they are thinking. Revered Cloud said. Qin Feiyang smiled. In that case, you really have to control them. Up to you. Revered Cloud said indifferently. Actually, we don't have any objections to letting these divine emperors guard the inland sea, but I think they might have some objections. Lu Zhengyang said with a smile. What objections can they have? Qin Feiyang was curious. After all, they know that they are about to go to the Black Tortoise world. The Black Tortoise world now has a 1 day and 1,000 years time array. Think about it, who doesn't want to stay in the Black Tortoise world and cultivate? Lu Zhengyang shook his head. But I am the master of the Black Tortoise world. Everything is decided by me. Would they dare to have any objections? Qin Feiyang said proudly. Ha, kid, you are getting more and more domineering. Lu Zhengyang laughed. In short, if they are obedient, I won't mistreat them. But if they dare to go against me, let alone enter the Black Tortoise world, they won't even get a soul stone. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhengyang shook his head and said with a smile, okay, do as you see fit. We will talk about this when the time comes. If no one is willing to go, I will go. Qin Batian said. How would I dare to let you go? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Not to mention the ancestor's seniority, with the ancestor's strength and status, he couldn't do such a small thing. Can't I volunteer? Qin Batian glared at Qin Feiyang and asked, this is your first time in the Dragon Slayer Palace. Shall I show you around? Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Next, Qin Feiyang stayed in the Dragon Slayer Palace for the time being. A few days later. His footprints were almost all over the Thousand Phoenix Mountain. He slowly became familiar with the people in the various villages. It had to be said. The overall strength of the Dragon Slayer Palace was quite terrifying. 4 emperors, 8 divine emperors, 108 generals. These were all imperishable realm experts. Half of the 9 heavens realm experts were in the Dragon Slayer Palace. There were about 20 million people in the Dragon Slayer Palace. In other words, 10 million people were in the 9 heavens realm. In addition, there were more than 300 half-imperishable realm experts. This lineup was quite terrifying. The current Black Tortoise realm couldn't compare at all. Half a month later, in the morning. Boom! Hundreds of terrifying auras entered the Thousand Phoenix Mountain. Qin Feiyang, Qin Batian, Lu Zhengyang, and Supreme Cloud were sitting around the stone table and eating breakfast. Sensing these auras, Qin Batian looked up and said with a smile, they are back. Qin Feiyang put down his bowl and chopsticks and looked up as well. More than 100 people were flying over in a grandiose manner. The 6 people in the lead were the 6 divine emperors. The Mermaid Emperor, Black Wing Emperor, White Wing Emperor. Qin Feiyang was familiar with them. The other 3 were a man and 2 women. The man was middle-aged and about 1.75 meters tall. His appearance wasn't very outstanding. He had strands of white hair at his temples and was full of vicissitudes of life. But the most eye-catching thing was the broadsword he was carrying on his back. The broadsword was completely black, with a length of 1.5 meters and a width of 2 adult palms. On the surface, the broadsword was dim and didn't have any sharpness, but it contained a terrifying sword intent. He is the Sword Emperor. Qin Badian smiled. Qin Feiyang didn't understand. Does the Sword Emperor have to carry a sword? Qin Badian paused and shook his head with a smile. This is just his habit. Qin Feiyang looked at the two women next to the Sword Emperor. Both of them were in their 20s. Their skin was smooth and white, and their appearances were outstanding. One of them was wearing a snow-white long dress. She was like a snow fairy, untainted by the dust of the world. The other person was wearing a light green dress and had an elegant and quiet temperament. These two were the Rain Emperor and the Ice Emperor. Looking behind the deity emperors, there were exactly 108 people. They were the 108 generals of the dragon-slaying palace. There were men and women, old and young, but without exception, they were all wearing black armor. The men were majestic, and the women were valiant. Qin Feiyang? Supreme Cloud? When the group of people approached the village and saw Qin Feiyang and Supreme Cloud in the courtyard, they couldn't help but be stunned. Then, the group of people landed outside the courtyard and bowed. Emperor Qin, Emperor Yang, and Supreme Cloud. Qin Badian nodded and asked, "Is it all over?" "Yes. All the remaining forces have been eliminated. Now, except for the Divine Dragon Island, the entire Divine Prefecture is under the control of the Dragon-slaying Palace." The Sword Emperor replied respectfully. Just like his name, his words carried an oppressive sharpness. "Very good." Qin Badian nodded and smiled. He glanced at Qin Feiyang and said, "I don't need to introduce him." Everyone immediately looked at Qin Feiyang, their eyes shining. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled. "Seniors, you are all very famous. I hope you can take care of me in the future." "So humble?" "Young lord, this doesn't suit your character," one of the black-armored men teased. This voice, Qin Feiyang looked at the voice and saw the black-armored man smiling at him. "It's you." Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile. That's right. This man was the Divine General of the North. They had met many times. Although they basically met through the image crystal, they were already familiar with each other. Let me formally introduce myself. My name is Xiaofan. I've just reached the Eternal Realm, and I'm one of the 108 generals of the Dragon-slaying Palace. The black-armored man stepped forward and said respectfully. "Xiaofan," Qin Feiyang murmured. He shook his head and smiled. "We've known each other for so long, but I only know your real name now. It's not easy. It wasn't convenient for me to tell you before." The black-armored man smiled embarrassedly. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Qin Badian pointed at the Sword Emperor and said, "Feiyang, the Sword Emperor has already introduced you. There's no need to introduce him again. Greetings, Senior Sword Emperor." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands. "Greetings, young lord." The Sword Emperor showed a very stiff smile. He seemed to be a person who didn't like to smile. Qin Badian pointed at the woman in the white dress and said with a smile, "This is the Ice Emperor." "Greetings, Senior Ice Emperor." Qin Feiyang bowed. The Ice Emperor was also like her name. Her clothes were whiter than snow, and she had long snow-white hair. She also emitted a cold aura. "Yes." The Ice Emperor nodded. Even her expression was very cold. "This is the Rain Emperor." Qin Badian pointed at the woman in green. "Greetings, Senior Rain Emperor." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands again. He. You, Qin Feiyang, are now more famous than us divine emperors. So, I really don't dare to be called senior. I only hope that in the future, you can take care of small characters like us. The Rain Emperor didn't seem so cold, but there were thorns in his words. It seemed that he wasn't easy to get along with. You're too kind. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hands. As for the 108 divine generals, I won't introduce them one by one. In the future, when you get to know each other, you'll naturally get to know each other. Qin Badian smiled. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. The Sword Emperor asked, Emperor Qin, when are we moving? Qin Badian thought for a while and said, almost everyone is back. It's time to move. Let's do it now. Immediately. The eyes of the group were filled with anticipation. What kind of place was the Black Tortoise Realm? Chapter 2876. Wiz. Lu Zhengyang, Qin Feiyang, Supreme Cloud, and Qin Feiyang soared into the sky. Following closely. Lu Zhengyang waved his hand, and the entire mountain began to tremble. In the next moment, Myriad Phoenix Mountain rose from the ground and then continued to shrink. Not long later, the mountain that stretched as far as the eye could see became a small mountain the size of a palm, floating in front of Lu Zhengyang. The people of the village, the Divine Emperor, and the Divine Generals were all inside the Myriad Phoenix Mountain. It really is a spatial divine object. Qin Feiyang muttered. Let's go. Qin Badian looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and immediately brought the three of them and Wan Fengshan into the Black Tortoise Realm. But in the medicine field, he did not see Yizhong. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes, his perception extended infinitely, and soon found Yizhong. Shua. Immediately after. He then brought Qin Badian and the other two and Wan Fengshan to a desolate mountain range. This place was lush with vegetation and sparsely populated. There were quite a few fierce beasts in the mountains, but their cultivation was very ordinary. They were basically all below the War Master level. Yizhong stood on top of a mountain, scanning his surroundings. No one knew what he was thinking. Master. Qin Feiyang landed on the mountain peak. Yizhong came back to his senses, looked at the four of them and smiled. You're here. Qin Feiyang nodded. Yizhong asked suspiciously, why is it only the few of you? Where are the people from the dragon-slaying palace? They're all here. Lu Zhengyang pointed at Wan Fengshan and laughed. Yizhong looked at Wan Fengshan, and a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. It was actually a heaven-defying divine artifact. Qin Feiyang asked, Master, how are the arrangements? This old man has made some adjustments to the Black Tortoise Realm. Yizhong said. What adjustments? Qin Feiyang was curious. With this time array of 1,000 years, the Black Tortoise Realm is growing rapidly every day. The current Black Tortoise Realm has already exceeded the geographical range of the north. In the past, the Fire Lotus divided the Black Tortoise world into 5 plates. They are respectively the Northern Region, Western Region, Southern Region, Eastern Region, and the Devil's Land. Now, I've added another plate. Central Continent. Yizhong said. Central Continent? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. That's right. We are currently in the Central Region. The Central Province is located next to the Devil's Land. The two places are adjacent. As for the people who originally lived in Zhongzhou, with the help of Pai Lupi and Theta Wang, they have moved to the Eastern, Western, Southern, and Northern regions. In other words, right now, there are no humans in the Central Region other than the ferocious beasts. Yizhong said. Qin Feiyang asked, is this a place that you specially made for the Dragon Slayer Palace? Yes. After all, there are so many people in the Dragon Slayer Palace, and their cultivation levels are higher than the people of the Black Tortoise realm. If they live together, it will definitely cause a lot of unnecessary trouble. So, I've decided to separate the people of the Dragon Slayer Palace from the Black Tortoise realm. In other words, the central region is now the territory of the Dragon Slayer Palace. Yi Zhong said. That works too. Qin Feiyang nodded. And, Yi Zhong looked at Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang and said, the people of the Dragon Slayer Palace can only stay in the central region in the future. They are not allowed to go to the 4 major regions without permission. Yi Zhong added, of course, the 2 of you are an exception. You can go anywhere. Qin Batian said gratefully, thank you. We will restrain them. In short, the order of the Black Tortoise realm cannot be messed up because of their arrival. If someone uses the fact that they are from the Dragon Slayer Palace to strut around and do whatever they want in the Black Tortoise realm, then don't blame me for being impolite. Yi Zhong said. Qin Batian nodded. In addition, the resources of the Black Tortoise realm were all allocated by the Fire Lotus realm in the past. For example, the number of crystal veins and spirit veins in the western, southern, northern, and eastern regions is about the same. So, the Dragon Slayer Palace can't covet these spirit veins and crystal veins. Also, Pai Lupi and Theta Wang have contributed a lot to the Black Tortoise realm over the years. They have been helping the Fire Lotus realm conscientiously. They now rule the 4 major regions and can be considered the overlords of the Black Tortoise realm. In the future, when the people of the Dragon Slayer Palace see them, you should be more polite. Yi Zhong smiled. Who are Pai Lupi and Theta Wang? Lu Zhengyang asked suspiciously. They used to be from the ancient realm. And at that time, they were only 2 divine emperors. Because of some reasons, when I brought them to the Black Tortoise realm, I didn't kill them and let them stay in the Black Tortoise realm. You don't say, they are quite capable. Slowly, they became the overlords of the Black Tortoise realm. So much so that now, in the eyes of the Black Tortoise realm, their words are more powerful than mine. Qin Feiyang smiled. Lu Zhengyang said in surprise, in that case, they can be considered to have obtained a good fortune? To them, yes. After all, the cultivation of a divine emperor is nothing in the ancient realm. Qin Feiyang nodded. Lu Zhengyang looked at Qin Batian and smiled. Look, this is a person's opportunity. As long as you meet a benefactor, it is not a dream to have a meteoric rise. Didn't we also meet a benefactor back then? That's why we have today's achievements. Qin Batian smiled slightly. What benefactor did you meet? Qin Feiyang was curious. The protectors of the Eastern Tomb, Northern Region, Western Desert, and Southern Wasteland. Qin Batian said. I seem to have heard of this before. When you escaped from the dragons, they were the ones who helped you? Qin Feiyang said. Yes. If it weren't for their help, I would have died in the hands of the dragons. Qin Batian shook his head. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, if there is a chance, I really want to meet them. It's difficult to meet them. They are all hidden in the secular world. When they don't make a move, they are just like ordinary people. You can't tell at all that they are terrifying experts. Qin Batian smiled. Wait. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and divine power emerged, condensing into a figure, and said, is he one of them? This figure was Lin Yi's master, the sloppy old man. Yes. He is the protector of the northern region. Qin Batian looked up and nodded immediately. Sure enough, it's him. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. He had guessed so at the beginning, but no one could confirm it, so he couldn't be sure. He didn't expect it to be him. Lin Yi, this little girl, was really lucky. As soon as she entered the ancient world, she picked up such a powerful master. Now, he couldn't worry about Lin Yi's safety. Yi Zhong looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "When did you meet him?" Obviously. He was no stranger to this old man. When Long Zun's clone came to the northern region, he was the one who saved me and Hua Yi. Qin Feiyang smiled. So that's how it is. No wonder princess dragons and black dragons disguised themselves as them to seduce you. Yi Zhong nodded in realization. Qin Feiyang asked curiously, "What is this old man's cultivation?" "Great perfection, undead realm." And he almost broke through to the great perfection, undead realm. Qin Badian said. So strong? Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. No wonder even ancestral Gragon couldn't withstand a single blow in front of him. This ancient world was really full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Yi Zhong looked at Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang, and said, "Well, the place has been vacated for you. You can arrange it yourselves." Okay. Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang nodded. Lu Zhengyang waved his hand, and countless people suddenly appeared in the void around them. These were the people in myriad Phoenix Mountain. With more than 20 million people, this place instantly became a sea of people. This is the Black Tortoise realm? Everyone looked around in surprise. This is the middle state of the Black Tortoise realm, a place that Yi Zhong specially vacated for our dragon-slaying palace. In the future, this will be the headquarters of our dragon-slaying palace. Qin Badian said with a smile. Then, in the future, we don't have to hide like before, right? Someone asked. Of course. Qin Badian nodded. Hearing this, everyone was overjoyed. Qin Badian waved his hand and said with a smile, "Go and build your own home." Okay. More than 20 million people immediately flew in all directions. Several divine emperors and 108 generals were also ready to leave. But at this moment, Qin Badian said, "You guys stay here first." More than 100 people looked at Qin Badian in confusion. After everyone has settled down, pass down the order that no one is allowed to step out of the middle state, and no one is allowed to disturb the order of the Black Tortoise realm. If anyone dares to do so, kill them first and report later. Qin Badian said. Yes. The group of people nodded respectfully. Qin Badian looked at the divine emperors and said, "There's one more thing. I've discussed with Feiyang, and we're going to let you replace Fire Lotus and the others to guard the internal sea. Who is willing to go?" The divine emperors suddenly hesitated. Before entering the Black Tortoise realm, they had already planned to use the 1 day and 1,000 years time array to enter seclusion and break through to the next realm. But now, they were actually going to guard the internal sea? Emperor Qin, they're guarding it well. Why do you want us to go? Moreover, we don't have any heaven-defying divine artifacts. The Rain Emperor frowned and said suspiciously. It's easy to talk about heaven-defying divine artifacts. Our dragon-slaying palace has 4 of them. You can take them. As for letting you guard it, it's naturally to let Fire Lotus and the others come to the Black Tortoise realm to cultivate in seclusion. Qin Badian did not hide anything and told the truth. The Ice Emperor raised his eyebrows and said, "Then we don't need to cultivate?" "You need to cultivate, but don't Hua Yi and the others need to cultivate?" Moreover, it was Qin Feiyang and the others who contributed to the sealing of the dragons. Now that they're guarding the internal sea, it's naturally our turn. After all, our dragon-slaying palace is cooperating with Qin Feiyang. We can't let them do everything, right? Qin Badian said. Although that's true, but, the Ice Emperor and Rain Emperor frowned, somewhat unwilling. Emperor Qin, I'll go. The Sword Emperor glanced at the 2 of them, then stepped forward and said to Qin Badian. Us too. The Mermaid Emperor, Black-Winged Emperor, and White-Winged Emperor also stepped forward. They were the most loyal subordinates of Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang, so they did not want to make things difficult for Qin Badian. Chapter 2877. Sword Emperor, Mermaid Emperor, Black Wing Emperor, White Wing Emperor, the number of people was just enough. Are you sure? Qin Badian looked at the four of them and asked. N. The four of them nodded. Qin Badian smiled and said, then I'll have to trouble you, but before he could finish, Qin Feiyang said, I don't agree. Sword Emperor, Mermaid Emperor and the other two looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang looked at Ice Emperor and Rain Emperor unkindly, and said, however. Before he could say anything, Qin Badian said, Feiyang, let them go. Ancestor, Qin Feiyang frowned. There's no need to force them. We'll talk about it later. Sword Emperor and the others are the people I trust the most. Only by giving them the heaven-defying artifact can Zhengyang and I truly be at ease. Qin Badian transmitted his voice. But, Qin Feiyang still wanted to say something. It's decided then. Qin Badian said secretly, and with a wave of his hand, the broken sword and fire bead appeared. Lu Zhengyang also waved his hand, and an ancient bronze mirror appeared. Isn't this the thieving heaven realm? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yes. Lu Zhengyang nodded, looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, you don't know, right? This thieving heaven realm is also a heaven-defying artifact. Heaven-defying artifact? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Actually, even Mu Tianyang and Demon Ancestor don't know that the thieving heaven realm is a heaven-defying artifact. Lu Zhengyang laughed. Then you've hidden it well. Qin Feiyang was stunned. I didn't mean to hide it from them, I just didn't want them to feel uncomfortable. After all, back then, the four of us each obtained a divine object. Lu Zhengyang said. Qin Feiyang said, what they obtained wasn't bad either. 3,000 incarnations, space-time gates, all of which are comparable to heaven-defying divine items. Although that's true, it's still not your true heaven-defying divine item. Moreover, our relationship at that time was pretty good. There was no need for us to be estranged because of this. Lu Zhengyang smiled. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded and chuckled, then when will you lend me this thieving heaven realm to play with? You brat, you already have so many heaven-defying divine weapons, and you still want my thieving heaven realm? Lu Zhengyang was speechless. Who would complain about having too many heaven-defying divine artifacts? Qin Feiyang scratched his head and asked, then what about Lu family's thieving heaven realm? It's obviously an imitation. Lu Zhengyang said. Qin Feiyang nodded. Lu Zhengyang waved his hand, and the thieving heaven realm and Wan Fengshan flew in front of the Mermaid Emperor and the other three, and said, for heaven-defying divine artifacts, one for each of you. You must guard the inner sea well. Yes. The four of them nodded respectfully, and each of them took a heaven-defying divine artifact. Seeing this, the Ice Emperor and Rain Emperor couldn't help but secretly sigh in relief. They were afraid that Qin Badian would force them to go. Because their relationship with Qin Badian couldn't be compared to Qin Baishan's relationship with the Mermaid Emperor and the other three. Even before, they were enemies. But suddenly, their bodies and minds tensed up. Because they suddenly felt a cold gaze on them. The two of them looked over and found that the owner of this gaze was Qin Feiyang. The two of them suddenly became nervous. Could it be that their previous actions made Qin Feiyang unhappy? If they were chased out of the Black Tortoise world, wouldn't they have liked him for nothing? You really annoy me, do you know that? As the Divine Emperor of the Dragon Slayer Palace, you only think about your own interests and don't think about others at all. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. Hearing this, the two of them couldn't help but panic. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said, I won't pursue this matter this time, but next time, when you encounter such a thing, you'd better think about whose Black Tortoise world this is. The two of them breathed a sigh of relief. But then, their hearts were in their mouths again. Because they saw that Qin Feiyang had evolved 2 slavery seals. What are you doing? The Rain Emperor was surprised. Do you still need to ask? Qin Feiyang said lightly. You can't do this. The 2 of them glared at Qin Feiyang. Even Supreme Yun and Supreme Beast are willing to be controlled by me, let alone the 2 of you. Do you think that you're more powerful than Supreme Yun and Supreme Beast? Qin Feiyang said. Supreme Yun was secretly dissatisfied. Since when was this sovereign willing to be controlled? He. Qin Feiyang chuckled inwardly. Looking at the Rain Emperor and the Ice Emperor, he said, either you accept my control or die here. It's your choice. The 2 of them trembled and immediately looked at Supreme Yun for help. Supreme Yun averted his gaze and looked elsewhere. Qin Batian, Lu Zhengyang, and Yi Zhong were also silent. If they really had to say something, the 3 of them would definitely support Qin Feiyang. Especially Yi Zhong. He was a very decisive person. Since he had already left the dragons, he would do his best to help this disciple. Therefore, people like this with hidden dangers must be eliminated at the first possible moment. Qin Feiyang said lightly, I believe that if I want to kill you, no one here will stop me. The Ice Emperor was instantly furious and said, then I choose to leave the Black Tortoise world. You don't have such a choice. Either submit or die. Don't think that I can't bear to kill you just because you have some strength. With the resources I have now, it's too easy to cultivate a minor imperishable realm cultivator. For example, Feng Daji, Yi Cheng, and the 5-clawed golden dragon. How long have they been with me? But now, Feng Daji and the 5-clawed golden dragon have already reached the imperishable realm. Yi Cheng has also reached the half-step imperishable realm. So you have to understand that the cultivation you are so proud of is nothing in my eyes. Qin Feiyang said. The 2 of them clenched their hands. 3 breaths. I'll give you 3 breaths to consider. Whether you live or die, it's your choice. After saying that, Qin Feiyang quietly looked at the 2 of them. 1. 2. 3. 3 breaths. It was just a matter of 3 breaths. It passed quickly. Just as Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with killing intent, the 2 of them looked at each other and helplessly lowered their heads. We are willing to accept your control. You're smart. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the 2 slave seals directly entered the top of the 2's heads. Accompanied by a sharp pain, the slavery seals were successfully completed. From now on, you will continue to stay in the Dragon Slayer Palace and assist my 2 ancestors. Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 of them and said. Yes. The 2 of them nodded respectfully. Qin Feiyang looked at the 108 generals. These 108 generals, except for Xia Yuan, were all terrified. I know. You are the same as the 8 divine emperors. Some of you are subordinates of the 2 ancestors, and some of you are subordinates of Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast. But now, all of you listen to me. Right now, the Dragon Slayer Palace no longer has any distinction between factions. We are all one. If I find that there are still people who are dishonest and secretly forming factions, then don't blame me, Qin Feiyang, for being ruthless. I believe you all have some understanding of my methods and character, so don't take any chances with me. Qin Feiyang said. Understood. The group of people looked at each other and nodded. It's good that you understand. All right then, you may all disperse. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The group of people immediately turned and dispersed, only to find that they were already drenched in cold sweat. Xia Yuan, this Qin Feiyang is too difficult to get along with. Yeah. I was almost scared to death. A few divine generals walked with Xia Yuan and whispered to him. No way. You'll slowly realize that he's actually a pretty good person after getting along with him for a long time. Xia Yuan smiled. Among the 108 generals, he was the most relaxed. This was because he was very familiar with Qin Feiyang and knew what kind of person Qin Feiyang was. As long as he didn't do anything out of line, nothing would happen. He would even treat you very well. Qin Badian looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Your show of strength is pretty good. Now they're more or less obedient. Don't I have you big shots backing me up?" Qin Feiyang said. "Us big shots? I think you're the big shot now. So many heaven-defying divine artifacts, so many brothers who have risked their lives, and so many loyal subordinates. You'll have to take care of us in the future." Lu Zhengyang teased. "You're an ancestor, can't you act like one? You're still making fun of me." Qin Feiyang was helpless. "Huh," Lu Zhengyang laughed heartily, looked at the 1,000 fengshan in the Mermaid Emperor's hand, and said, "Take out the spirit vein and crystal vein." Hearing this, the artifact spirit of the 1,000 fengshan immediately emitted wisps of divine light. Immediately after, one spirit vein and one crystal vein appeared in the void in front of them. So many? Qin Feiyang was shocked. The dragon-slaying palace has existed for so many years, they must have some foundation. Qin Badian laughed. Finally, the spirit vein and crystal vein that appeared in front of them added up to more than 20,000. And the lowest was a rank 3 divine level. It's a lot, but the quality is not good. It's far from enough to turn the entire central continent into a holy land for cultivation. Yi Zhong shook his head. Although the lowest was a rank 3 divine level, the highest was a rank 6 divine level. And the spirit vein and crystal vein of the Black Tortoise realm were all rank 8 divine level. There were even some spirit vein and crystal vein that were already evolving towards rank 9 divine level. This is fine. Fire Lotus, Hua Yi, and the 5-clawed golden dragon have looted the 3 great dragon god halls, and there are still many spirit vein and crystal vein. When they return, we'll split some of them and place them in the central continent. Qin Feiyang said. Then we'll thank you in advance. Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang looked at each other, then looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. We're all family, why are you being so polite? Qin Feiyang was helpless. Yes, 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 family, family. Qin Badian nodded, extremely gratified. Qin Feiyang looked at the Sword Emperor and the others and said, "Then you'll go out with me now?" "Okay." The 4 of them nodded. "Then I'll go out first. If you need anything, look for Master." Qin Feiyang said to Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang, then led the Sword Emperor and the others out of the Black Tortoise realm and rushed towards the Inner Sea. I really didn't expect it. How many years has it been? He's already grown to this point. Qin Badian looked at the place where Qin Feiyang disappeared and was filled with emotions. Yes. I originally thought that it would take at least 10,000 years, or even longer, before he could shoulder the heavy responsibility. But it's only been a few hundred years. This descendant is really amazing. Lu Zhengyang said with a smile. He's our pride. Qin Badian nodded, then looked at Yi Zhong and said with a smile, "Brother Yi, don't you think so?" "Pride," Yi Zhong muttered with a gratified smile on his old face. "That's right. With such an outstanding disciple, how could they not be proud?" Chapter 2878. Inland Sea. On the coast. Feng Daji sat cross-legged. 2 heaven-defying artifacts floated in the air, exuding mighty divine power. At this time, there were still many people standing on the divine Dragon Mountain range watching. They were here to confirm whether the dragons had been sealed or not. But when they saw Feng Daji and the 2 heaven-defying artifacts, they knew that it was true. Swish! Suddenly, 5 figures landed on the coast. "It's him. Qin Feiyang. At this moment, everyone's eyes were burning as if they were looking at their idol. Especially some of the girls, their eyes were shining. Who are the four people next to him? What a strong aura. You don't even know them? You must be from the countryside. Let me tell you, they are the four divine emperors of the dragon-slaying palace. They are the Mermaid Emperor, the Sword Emperor, the Black Wing Emperor, and the White Wing Emperor. So it's them. They are all famous big shots. Qin Feiyang is actually with them. Is this strange? Qin Feiyang is the descendant of Qin Batian and has the same bloodline power. Even without this identity, with Qin Feiyang's own ability, I'm afraid even these divine emperors have to curry favor with him. Everyone whispered. At the same time, on the coast, Feng Daji opened his eyes, got up, looked at Qin Feiyang, and said with a smile, "Young master." Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded, turned his head, and glanced at the people in the distance, and asked suspiciously, "What are they doing?" "They are just here to join in the fun, don't worry about them," Feng Daji said. Qin Feiyang nodded, then looked at the Mermaid Emperor and the other three, and asked with a smile, "Who will stay here to replace Feng Daji?" The four looked at each other. The Black Wing Emperor said with a smile, "Anyone is fine." The Mermaid Emperor said with a faint smile, "Then I will stay here." Okay. The Sword Emperor and the other two nodded. Qin Feiyang glanced at the four of them and could see that they were very united. Qin Feiyang looked at the Black Wing Emperor and the other two and said with a smile, "Then I won't see you off. You can go by yourselves. Help me tell Fire Lotus and the others that I will be waiting for them here." "All right." The Black Wing Emperor and the other two nodded and each opened an altar. Qin Feiyang suddenly exhorted, "If there are any sudden changes, don't be impulsive. Send us a message as soon as possible. Don't worry. We know our limits." The three of them smiled and stepped onto the altar. After watching the three of them leave, Qin Feiyang withdrew his gaze and raised his head to look at the two heaven-defying artifacts floating in the air. He said with a smile, "Your mission is over. Come down." The two heaven-defying divine artifacts immediately retracted their divine power and landed beside Qin Feiyang. "Forefather." Qin Feiyang looked at the Mermaid Emperor again. The Mermaid Emperor understood. With a wave of his hand, the broken sword appeared and rushed into the sky. Terrifying divine power immediately emerged and replaced the two heaven-defying divine artifacts to seal the coast. "Young master, is one heaven-defying divine artifact really enough?" Feng Daji was a little worried. "It's completely enough." Qin Feiyang nodded. Because the current dragons did not dare to confront them head-on. And now, what they had to do was to guard against the dragons entering the east, west, south, and north to stir up trouble. So, one heaven-defying divine artifact on each side was enough to deter the dragons. In other words, now, they only needed a deterrent effect. All right. Feng Daji nodded, feeling very touched. Because from this point, it could be seen how much Qin Feiyang cared about him. One had to know. The Mermaid Emperor was the Mermaid Princess ancestor, so he could be considered Qin Feiyang's true relative. But now, Qin Feiyang let the Mermaid Emperor replace him to guard the inland sea and let him go to the Black Tortoise world to cultivate. One could imagine that in Qin Feiyang's heart, he was more important than the Mermaid Emperor. It could be said that this kind of treatment, when he followed the dragons in the past, he did not even dare to think about it. This was very obvious. In the past, when he followed the dragons, he had only been to the Divine Dragon Island once, and then he was sent here to guard the inland sea. In other words, in the eyes of the dragons, he was simply a dispensable small figure. Now, he followed Qin Feiyang. Although he was nominally Qin Feiyang's subordinate, in fact, the two of them were friends and partners. It was a world of difference. He was very glad that he made a wise choice to leave the dragons and follow Qin Feiyang. Otherwise, he would definitely be reduced to cannon fodder like Li Chang and the others. Of course. Li Chang was a very lucky person. Not only did he escape with his life, but he also successfully escaped the control of the dragons. But the others were not so lucky. For example, the 750 half-step imperishable realm experts who went to the west and the south were all reduced to cannon fodder and died without any value. Feiyang, let me ask you something. The Mermaid Emperor suddenly spoke. What is it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The Mermaid Emperor said, when are you and Xiaoyu going to get married? Cough cough. Qin Feiyang choked on his saliva. Such a big reaction. The Mermaid Emperor was stunned and frowned. You can't be kidding, right? How is that possible? Qin Feiyang hurriedly shook his head and said with a wry smile, it's not a big deal. Destroying the dragons and getting married seem to be two different things. The Mermaid Emperor said. I know. But I hope that when I get married, I can get the blessings of all my relatives. Qin Feiyang said. I see. I thought you were just fooling around. The Mermaid Emperor nodded. Am I that kind of person? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Who knows? Anyway, you can't hurt her. Otherwise, even if the Qin Emperor comes, I will teach you a lesson. The Mermaid Emperor said. If such a thing really happens, there's no need for you elders to step in. I'll take care of myself. Qin Feiyang patted his chest and said. You brat. The Mermaid Emperor shook his head and laughed. Qin Feiyang smiled and pondered for a while, then said, Ancestor, I have a question that I have been wanting to ask you for a long time. What is it? The Mermaid Emperor was suspicious. When I was at the god site, I heard from the fire python and the fire dragon that you went to the third level? Qin Feiyang said. Yes. The Mermaid Emperor nodded. I also heard from the fire python that it was the fire dragon who forced you to go there. Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. The Mermaid Emperor nodded again. What exactly is going on? Qin Feiyang was curious. It's a long story. You should also know that when we first entered the god site, we had already formed a grudge with the fire dragon. The Mermaid Emperor said. I know this. The fire dragon wanted to leave the god site and tried to possess the ancestor, but in the end, not only did he not succeed, but he was also injured by the ancestor. Qin Feiyang nodded. That's right. At that time, the fire dragon's plot failed and he resented us. Therefore, when we destroyed the Tianyang Empire and entered the god site again, we encountered the fire dragon's revenge. In that battle, we were all annihilated, and only the Qin Emperor was left. The Mermaid Emperor said in a deep voice. I also know about this. The fire dragon colluded with the beasts of the god site to kill you. At that time, all the subordinates of the ancestor died in battle. In the end, the ancestor opened the gate of rebirth and revived everyone. After the ancestor opened the gate of rebirth, he lost all his cultivation. Then, you brought him and escaped to the third level. Qin Feiyang said. That's indeed the case. The Mermaid Emperor nodded. Then, what did you experience in the third level? And the ancestor, how did he recover his cultivation? How did you enter the ancient world at that time? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. When we entered the third level, the gate of the shrine was not closed. Therefore, we successfully entered the third level, which is the Divine Demon Forest. The Mermaid Emperor said. You guys went to the Divine Demon Forest? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yes. Also, we encountered the guardians of the shrine. When these guardians saw us, they chased us everywhere. We fled in the Divine Demon Forest. Some died in the illusion, and some were killed by the beasts. We were really driven into a corner. But in the end, we found a blessing in disguise. In the divine demon forest, we found a heaven-defying divine artifact. This heaven-defying divine artifact was the 1,000 Phoenix Mountain. Later, we found Emperor Yang, and Emperor Qin gave him the 1,000 Phoenix Mountain. The Mermaid Emperor said. So, the 1,000 Phoenix Mountain was given to him by the ancestor. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, then, how did you get a blessing in disguise? You have to know that the entire Nether King's Hell can't recover a heaven-defying divine artifact, including the divine demon forest. Even if you had the broken sword at that time, it couldn't help you. As for those protectors, they are all extremely powerful. At that time, the strongest among you should be the god of war, right? How could he escape from the shrine guardians with such a cultivation base? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Nether King's Hell? The Mermaid Emperor was stunned. You don't know? Nether King's Hell is the 3rd level of the shrine. Qin Feiyang said. We really don't know about this. Those guardians who chased us didn't say anything. The Mermaid Emperor was stunned. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, at first, I didn't know either. But when I met the fire dragon in the shrine, I found out that Nether King's Hell is the 3rd level of the shrine. I see. The Mermaid Emperor nodded and said, at that time, we escaped from those guardians because of a giant. A giant? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Could it be the Blood Demon tribe? The Mermaid Emperor said, they look similar to us humans, but they are bigger than us. Then it must be the Blood Demon tribe. Qin Feiyang said. Blood Demon tribe? The Mermaid Emperor was stunned again. The Blood Demon tribe is the ruler of Nether King's Hell. When I entered Nether King's Hell, my relationship with the Blood Demon tribe was quite good. Qin Feiyang said. I see. The Mermaid Emperor smiled and said, then we are quite fated with the Blood Demon tribe. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded, but suddenly frowned and said, that can't be right. The Divine Demon Forest is a forbidden area of Nether King's Hell. Even the Blood Demon tribe doesn't dare to enter. How did you encounter them? At that time, we did encounter a Blood Demon tribe. It was his appearance that led away those guardians who chased us. But at that time, we didn't have any interaction with him. We just brushed past him. We don't even know his name. But in our hearts, we have always been grateful to him. If not for his appearance, I'm afraid we would have died in the Divine Demon Forest. The Mermaid Emperor smiled. Chapter 2879. The Blood Demon Race. Qin Feiyang frowned and asked, do you still remember the appearance of the Blood Demon Race? I remember this. Although he passed by in a hurry, we remember his appearance. The Mermaid Emperor nodded. What does he look like? Qin Feiyang asked. The Mermaid Emperor waved his hand and divine power surged, condensing into a huge figure. It's him? Qin Feiyang was stunned. You know him? The Mermaid Emperor was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, not only do I know him, but we have a very good relationship. It can't be. The Mermaid Emperor was stunned. Was there such a coincidence? Qin Feiyang said, this person is the commander of the Blood Demon race, Xueda. So his name is Xueda, the Mermaid Emperor mumbled. Wait a minute. Has Xueda been to the Forest of Gods and Demons? Qin Feiyang frowned. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang recalled that King Yu said that Xueda had indeed been to the Forest of Gods and Demons. Moreover, it was precisely because he passed the test of the Forest of Gods and Demons that he slowly comprehended the law of slaughter. In other words, Ancestor and the rest met Xueda at that time. This was too much of a coincidence. It was so coincidental that it was somewhat unbelievable. It seemed that the blood demon race was really fated with him. Not only did he inadvertently save Ancestor and the rest back then, but he was also helping him now. Qin Feiyang asked, what happened after that? After that, although the Guardians were lured away by Shweta, the danger was not over. There were still many behemoths in the forest of gods and demons. We were very careful, as if we were treading on thin ice. In the end, we were still discovered by a few behemoths. Just as we were about to lose all hope, a person suddenly appeared. The Mermaid Emperor said. Who is it? Qin Feiyang was surprised. There was actually someone else in the Netherworld King's Hell? The Mermaid Emperor said, a white-haired young man. A white-haired young man? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. This white-haired youth is very strong. When he appeared, he scared off all the giant beasts with just a glance. He was the one who gave the Qin Emperor a divine elixir. After the Qin Emperor consumed the elixir, he quickly recovered his cultivation. Furthermore, he directly sent us to the ancient realm. The Mermaid Emperor said. So powerful? Qin Feiyang was shocked and asked in confusion, then why did he help you? I don't know. At that time, he only asked about the Qin Emperor's bloodline power. The Mermaid Emperor said. Asking about bloodline power? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Yes. At that time, he asked the Qin Emperor where the power of the purple gold dragon blood came from. The Qin Emperor replied that he didn't know either. He was born with it. After that, the white-haired youth didn't ask anything else. The Mermaid Emperor said. White-haired youth, bloodline power, in other words, he might have saved you because of the bloodline power of your ancestor? Qin Feiyang said. That's what we think too. The Mermaid Emperor said. Even the giant beast was scared away, then this person's strength must be quite terrifying. Furthermore, he could directly send you to the ancient realm. Why haven't I heard of this person when I was in the Nether King's Hell? Qin Feiyang frowned. We asked him at that time, but he didn't answer. When we came to the ancient realm, we also asked around, but there was no such person in the ancient realm. The Mermaid Emperor shook his head. Wait a minute. Qin Feiyang suddenly thought of something, and a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. What's wrong? The Mermaid Emperor looked at him in confusion. The miracle is restricted by the power of the rules. As far as I know, the only ones who can freely enter and exit the miracle and send people from the miracle to the ancient realm are Ice Dragon and Small Beast. Qin Feiyang said. It can't be them. The Mermaid Emperor shook his head. I also don't think it's them. Then there's only one person left. Qin Feiyang said. Who? The Mermaid Emperor asked. The God of Creation. Qin Feiyang said word by word. The God of Creation. The Mermaid Emperor's eyes trembled. Although he had never seen it before, he knew that it was the ruler of this world just by hearing the name. Feng Daji was also shocked and asked, if it's really the God of Creation, why would he help the Qin Emperor and the others? I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. The Mermaid Emperor pondered for a while and said, this is just your personal guess. Maybe other than Ice Dragon and Small Beast, there are other people who can freely enter and exit the miracle. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback and nodded. That's true. The God of Creation must have more than just Ice Dragon and Small Beast. Since he could give Ice Dragon and Small Beast such authority, it was naturally possible that he could give the same authority to others. This matter could only be clarified when they met the God of Creation. Qin Feiyang looked at the Mermaid Emperor and said, there's one more question. Go ahead. The Mermaid Emperor said. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, why does the Qin clan have the power of the purple gold dragon bloodline? The Mermaid Emperor smiled bitterly and shook his head. You're asking the wrong person. You have to ask your ancestor. You're so close. Didn't he tell you? Qin Feiyang said. I did ask him, but your ancestor seemed a little confused. The Mermaid Emperor said. My ancestor wasn't confused? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. The Mermaid Emperor nodded. What's there to be confused about? Even if my ancestor doesn't know, don't tell me his father doesn't know? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. You don't say. The Qin Emperor doesn't even know who his parents are. The Mermaid Emperor said. What? He doesn't know who his parents are. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Feng Daji also had a look of disbelief. Yes. I heard from the Qin Emperor that he seems to be an orphan. The Mermaid Emperor said. That can't be. Qin Feiyang and Feng Daji looked at each other. The Mermaid Emperor said, You can ask the Qin Emperor for the details when you have time. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. He had not thought about this in the past. Now that he asked, he suddenly felt that his ancestors seemed to be full of secrets. Whoosh! Soon. 3 figures descended one after another. They were Fire Lotus, Hua Yi, and the 5-clawed golden dragon. It's been hard on all of you. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. What's there to be hard on? As for you, who was the one who fought with you in the internal sea? Fire Lotus asked suspiciously. The Prince of the Dragons. Qin Feiyang said. It's really him. Hua Yi's gaze sank and he asked, How's his strength? He lost to me. However, he's very powerful. I even feel that he's hiding something. Qin Feiyang said. Then what about his character? The 5-clawed golden dragon asked. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, He's quite a good person. I even suspect that he's Long Zun's biological son. Fire Lotus and the other 2 were stunned. They actually had such suspicions. Was there such a huge gap between the mother and son? Let's not talk about him first. Did you bring back the heaven-defying divine artifact? Qin Feiyang said. The 3 nodded. All right then. Let's go to the Black Tortoise realm and prepare for the final push. Qin Feiyang said. The final push? The 3 were stunned. The dragons are about to break through to the sovereign realm. If she really steps into the sovereign realm, even if we have so many heaven-defying divine artifacts, we won't be her match. Therefore, we must destroy the dragons before she steps into the sovereign realm. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Sovereign realm? Fire Lotus frowned slightly. The sovereign realm is the realm above the imperishable realm. According to Master, one has to completely comprehend a type of law to step into the sovereign realm. Qin Feiyang said. Completely comprehend a type of law? Hua Yi was slightly stunned and asked, What about those who haven't comprehended a type of law? Those who haven't comprehended a type of law will stop at the great perfection imperishable realm. Qin Feiyang said. There's such a thing? Hua Yi was stunned and then said, No, I have to quickly comprehend a type of law. Me too. The 5-clawed golden dragon clenched his fists. If it was before, the imperishable realm was his highest goal. But after following Qin Feiyang, his vision and goal slowly changed. In other words, the imperishable realm was no longer his goal. It's not that easy to comprehend a type of law. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Even if it's not easy, I have to do it. I don't want to stop at the sovereign realm. Hua Yi said. Fire Lotus and Qin Feiyang had both comprehended a type of law, how could he fall behind? Fire Lotus glanced at the 2, then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, In other words, when one reaches the sovereign realm, one can give a supreme grade divine artifact the power of law? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then when Long Zun steps into the sovereign realm, won't he be able to casually forge a heaven-defying divine artifact? Fire Lotus was surprised. That's right. That's what I'm worried about. Qin Feiyang said. You don't have to worry too much about that. After all, divine artifacts like the Sunset Divine Bow have already surpassed the limits of heaven-defying divine artifacts. So, no matter how many heaven-defying divine artifacts she can forge, she won't be much of a threat to us. The only thing that worries us is her. Although I haven't seen a sovereign realm expert, her strength is definitely heaven-defying. When the time comes, even if we join forces, we won't be enough to kill her. Hua Yi said. Yes. So I've decided that when I step into the half-step Undying Realm, I'll declare war on the dragons. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. Hua Yi was silent for a moment, then sighed, although it's a bit rushed, there's nothing we can do about it. Then let's go. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and led the group into the Black Tortoise Realm. Sovereign Realm, the Mermaid Emperor stood on the shore, looking in the direction of Divine Dragon Island through the Sovereign Realm, muttering to himself. It seemed that destroying the dragons was harder than expected. This hope was now on Qin Feiyang. He hoped that this child could withstand the pressure and shoulder this heavy burden. Chapter 2880. Black Tortoise World. Above the herb field. Qin Feiyang and the other two stood side by side. Why are there more courtyards? Fire Lotus looked at the courtyard beside the ancient castle with a trace of surprise in her eyes. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Supreme Cloud and Master have already decided to stay in the Black Tortoise World. Really? Fire Lotus said. Yes. And Master also agreed to help manage the Black Tortoise World, so in the future, you will have more time to cultivate. Qin Feiyang said. Fire Lotus nodded and smiled, with his help, and the three Black Panther brothers, it will indeed be much easier, but this is not the main point. The main point is that he will stay in the Black Tortoise World. That's right. Master's ability is obvious to all, as long as he stays, the chances of destroying the dragons will be greater. Qin Feiyang said. What are you talking about? At this moment, Yi Zhong walked out of the courtyard and looked up at them with a smile. Greetings, Senior Yi. Fire Lotus and the other three immediately flew down and bowed. No need to be so polite. Yi Zhong waved his hand and smiled, thank you for your hard work. No. Fire Lotus quickly waved her hand. Qin Feiyang asked, Master, have you arranged everything in Zhongzhou? Yes. Yi Zhong nodded. Pretty fast. Qin Feiyang smiled. Fast? Although it has only been a while outside, decades have passed in the Black Tortoise World. Yi Zhong said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and shook his head with a smile, look at my brain, I always forget about this. Wait a minute, what does Zhongzhou mean? Fire Lotus looked at the two of them suspiciously. Qin Feiyang briefly explained the situation of the Dragon Slayer Palace being transferred to the Black Tortoise World. In that case, our Black Tortoise World is now filled with experts? Hua Yi was stunned. Everything has its pros and cons, with so many people from the Dragon-slaying Palace moving to the Black Tortoise World, I'm afraid it will affect the order of the Black Tortoise World. Fire Lotus frowned. Don't worry about that. This old man has repeatedly reminded Qin Batian to restrain the people of the Dragon-slaying Palace. Furthermore, I've also set a rule that the members of the Dragon-slaying Palace can only stay in the Central Plains. Yi Zhong smiled. That's good. Fire Lotus smiled. The Order of the Black Tortoise World was created by her. It could be said that there was no place more peaceful than the Black Tortoise World. Therefore, she would not allow anyone to destroy the Order of the Black Tortoise World. The Dragon-slaying Palace has been settled. It's time for you to cultivate in seclusion. Yi Zhong looked at Qin Feiyang and said. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and turned to look at the Fire Lotus, and five-clawed golden dragon. He asked, "Where are the spirit veins and crystal veins you plundered from the Divine Dragon Island?" "Don't talk about plundering, okay? You're making us look like bandits." Hua Yi glared at Qin Feiyang with dissatisfaction. "Then what should I say? Rob the rich to help the poor?" Qin Feiyang was speechless. "Yes, rob the rich to help the poor." Hua Yi nodded. "You're trying to make me laugh to death." Qin Feiyang glanced at him helplessly and said, "The spirit veins and crystal veins of the Northern Dragon God Palace add up to about 200,000. What about you?" "About the same," Fire Lotus said. With a wave of her hand, crystal veins and spirit veins rushed out of her Qi Si. "This old man naturally has the most right to speak on this matter. The resources of the four Dragon God Palaces are about the same." Yi Zhong smiled. After all, he was the one who founded the Dragon God Palace. He definitely knew better than anyone else. Hua Yi and five-clawed golden dragon also took out their spirit veins and crystal veins. Immediately, the entire sky above the Devil's Land was filled with densely packed crystal veins and spirit veins. So many. Even with Qin Feiyang's temperament, he couldn't help but be stunned when he saw this scene. The spirit veins and crystal veins of the four Dragon God Palaces should add up to about 900,000. Yi Zhong said. Then with the previous ones, our Black Tortoise world now has more than 1,000,000 crystal veins and spirit veins, right? Hua Yi was stunned. The Black Tortoise world is getting better and better. Fire Lotus glanced around, her moving eyes full of smiles. Not only the order of the Black Tortoise world, everything here was her painstaking effort. In her eyes, the Black Tortoise world was like her child. Seeing the Black Tortoise world getting better and better, she was naturally happy in her heart. Yes, it's getting better and better. Qin Feiyang patted Fire Lotus's shoulder. He naturally knew how Fire Lotus felt. Fire Lotus smiled slightly, looked at Yi Zhong and said, "Then old Yi, let's deal with these spirit veins together." "Okay." Yi Zhong nodded. The spirit veins and crystal veins of the Devil's Land are almost full. Let's leave another 1,000. The rest will be given to the four major regions. As for the herbs of the four Dragon God Palaces, the herb fields of the Devil's Land are really full. Let's give them to the creatures of the four major regions. Fire Lotus said. The current Devil's Land was no longer barren. Medicinal herbs were planted everywhere. There's also the Central State. The spirit veins and crystal veins of the ancestors are not enough. Qin Feiyang reminded. Yi Zhong said, then the Central State will give them 50,000 spirit veins and 50,000 crystal veins. Okay. Fire Lotus nodded and said, Black Panther brothers, come and help. Coming. The three Black Panther brothers immediately ran over. Qin Feiyang said, I just happen to have something to do with the ancestors. I'll take the spirit veins and crystal veins with me. Yi Zhong and Fire Lotus nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at the 8 heaven-defying divine artifacts and said with a smile, you guys also go to the land of origin. In the future, you will be the main battle force. You have to work hard. No matter how hard we work, we won't be able to evolve into sovereign divine weapons. The heaven-breaking halberds artifact spirit sighed. It's better to be stronger, right? Don't be discouraged. There's still a long time. Maybe in the future, we won't need to merge with the Black Tortoise realm like the ancient castle to evolve into a sovereign divine weapon. Qin Feiyang comforted. Okay. Hearing this, the group of heaven-defying divine artifacts rushed into the sky and disappeared. Qin Feiyang also brought 50,000 spirit veins and crystal veins to the sky above the Central State. The Central States plate was countless times larger than the Devil's Land. Even the more than 20 million people of the Dragon Slayer Palace only occupied a corner. The current layout of the Dragon Slayer Palace was similar to the Thousand Phoenix Mountain. Villages were scattered among the mountains in picturesque disorder. As the sovereign of the Black Tortoise Realm, Qin Feiyang could easily find the location of Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang. Swoosh! He disappeared again and appeared in the sky above a giant mountain. The giant mountain was more than 10,000 feet high, towering into the clouds. At the top of the mountain, there was a simple and plain small wooden building. There was a small vegetable garden around the wooden building. At this time, Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang were sitting at a stone table outside the wooden building, drinking tea and chatting. Two ancestors, are you used to it? Qin Feiyang smiled. You're here. The two raised their heads and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile on their faces. But when they saw the 50,000 spirit veins and crystal veins, a trace of shock appeared in their eyes. So many? These are all for you. Qin Feiyang waved his hand generously. Isn't this too extravagant? Qin Batian smiled bitterly. I have no choice. I have nothing now, only a lot of spirit veins and crystal veins. Qin Feiyang smiled proudly. Brat. Qin Batian laughed and shouted, Xia Yuan. Whoosh. A black figure rushed up from the mountains below like lightning. No way. Looking at the spirit veins and crystal veins floating in the air, Xia Yuan was dumbfounded. These are given to us by Feiyang. Take them and settle them down. Qin Batian smiled. Xia Yuan was slightly taken aback. He looked at Qin Feiyang and gave him a thumbs up. Young lord, you're so generous. Of course. Qin Feiyang smiled. Then can I ask, how many spirit veins and crystal veins did you get from looting the 4 dragon god palaces this time? Xia Yuan looked at Qin Feiyang curiously. Not much, just about 900,000. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The corner of Xia Yuan's mouth twitched. 900,000 was not much? This pretentious was really good. Go quickly. Qin Batian smiled. Yes. Xia Yuan respectfully replied and disappeared with all the spirit veins and crystal veins. Sit. Qin Batian pointed to the stone bench next to him. Qin Feiyang sat on the stone bench and drank a cup of tea. He smiled and said, Old ancestor, are you lonely? What do you mean, am I not human? Lu Zhengyang said angrily. You don't understand what I mean. What I mean is, since we're all in the Black Tortoise world, why don't you let great-grandmother come to the middle ground too? Qin Feiyang said. I see. Lu Zhengyang suddenly understood. He looked at Qin Batian and joked, Old brother Qin, are you lonely? He was even more direct than Qin Feiyang. Why are you blindly joining in the fun? Qin Batian looked at Lu Zhengyang helplessly. To be honest, you and Little Li have been separated for so many years. Don't you want to spend some time alone? Lu Zhengyang said. Qin Batian rolled his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang. Then when you go back, let them come over. See, although they say they don't want it, they still want it very much. Qin Feiyang laughed mischievously. You're not done, are you? Qin Batian's face darkened. Okay, I won't say any more. However, I can't help with this matter. If great-grandmother misunderstands and says that I want to drive them out of the Devil's Land, then I won't be able to have peace in the future. Qin Feiyang said. Why not? Are they going to eat you? Qin Batian was speechless. You don't say. With your precious daughter's character, I can't afford to provoke her. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Qin Batian smiled bitterly and said, Okay, I'll pick them up myself another day. That's for the best. Qin Feiyang smiled, pondered for a while, and said, "There's something I want to ask you. Don't hide it from me." "What is it?" Qin Badian was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, "Why do the people of the Qin clan have the power of the purple gold dragon blood?" "That's it?" Qin Badian was stunned. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "I thought it was something big." Qin Badian shook his head and said, "Actually, I don't know about the purple gold dragon blood of the Qin clan." "You don't know?" Qin Feiyang immediately frowned and said, "Is it like what the Mermaid Emperor said? You don't even know who your father is? You've asked him?" Qin Badian was stunned. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Qin Badian replied, "Then why don't you ask me again? He already knows about my situation." "But that's not right. How can you be an orphan? The bloodline of the Qin clan must have other ancestors." Qin Feiyang frowned. Chapter 2881. There must be an ancestor. But the point is, I don't know who my ancestor is. Qin Badian was helpless. "Then what about your background?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Mystery," Qin Badian said with a trace of confusion in his eyes. "Mystery," Qin Feiyang murmured. Qin Badian pondered for a while and said with a smile, "I'll tell you from the beginning." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded with a face full of expectation. "I was brought up by an old man with the surname Qin. He's my grandfather. When I was a child, I also thought that he was really my grandfather. At that time, I kept asking where my parents were and why they didn't come to see me. And he always used various excuses to cover it up. When he passed away, he told me the truth. He said that he picked me up. When he picked me up, I was just a baby. At that time, I didn't have anything to prove my identity, so he let me take his surname." Qin Badian said. Qin Feiyang said in surprise, "This is the origin of the Qin clan?" "Yes. To be honest, I don't even know what my real surname is." Qin Badian sighed. "In that case, the Qin clan may have other surnames?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "Yes." Qin Badian nodded. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, "Is there really nothing to prove your background?" Qin Badian pondered for a while and shook his head. "No, but, at this point." Qin Badian fell silent and couldn't help but frown. "But what?" Qin Feiyang looked at Qin Badian anxiously. Qin Badian said, "When my grandfather found me, there was already an incredible artifact in my body." "What? An incredible artifact?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. "That's right. This heaven-defying artifact is the Dragon Ball." Qin Badian said. "Dragon Ball?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Qin Badian nodded and said, "It's the fire pearl you mentioned." "So that's it." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. "There is a purple gold dragon god pattern on the Dragon Ball, which is perfectly compatible with our bloodline power. So, my personal guess is that Dragon Ball should be related to my background." Qin Badian said. Qin Feiyang asked, "Is there any relevant information in this Dragon Ball?" "No." Qin Badian shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, "Then your background is really mysterious. I won't hide it from you. Back then, I insisted on entering the ancient world. Firstly, I wanted to find Xingyang. Secondly, I wanted to investigate my background." Qin Badian said. Qin Feiyang asked, "Did you find anything?" "When I first entered the ancient world, I heard the legend of dragons. At that time, I thought that my background might be related to dragons. After all, a purple gold divine dragon is also a dragon. At that time, I wondered if a purple gold divine dragon and a human got together and gave birth to me, a descendant with purple-gold dragon blood. But in the end, I found out that dragons never gave birth to a purple-gold divine dragon. Later, because of the brutality of the dragons, I was very disgusted, so I temporarily put aside the investigation of my background and stayed in the ancient world to deal with them. Qin Badian said. Qin Feiyang said, that is to say, there is no clue about your background at all? Yes. If not for the fact that I have to deal with the dragons, I might have entered the third level of the divine level long ago. Perhaps the third level can solve the mystery of my background. Qin Badian said. There is no clue on the third level either. Qin Feiyang shook his head. What do you mean? Qin Badian was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, the third level is the hell of the Nether King. What? The third level is the hell of the Nether King? Qin Badian was stunned. Lu Zhengyang was also surprised. Yes. I also told the Mermaid Emperor about this. And coincidentally, the person who inadvertently helped you lure away the guardians of the divine palace in the forest of gods and demons back then was the great commander of the blood demon race. When I was in the hell of the Nether King, I had a very good relationship with him. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang looked at each other. Could this be fate? Qin Badian came back to his senses and said with a smile, if there is a chance in the future, we must thank him properly. There will definitely be a chance. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, the blood demon race is the ruler of the third level, and there is no human on the third level except for the blood demon race and the ferocious beasts. Therefore, the mystery of your background cannot be in the hell of the Nether King. If even the third level can't solve the mystery of my background, where else can I go to find the answer? Could it be that you really jumped out of a stone? Lu Zhengyang looked at Qin Badian and asked. You guessed that I jumped out of a stone. Qin Badian glared at Lu Zhengyang. Lu Zhengyang smiled embarrassedly. Qin Feiyang looked at Qin Badian and asked, are you sure you have checked everything? Of course. I have done a detailed investigation of the places I know, such as the Great Qin, the Forgotten Continent, the 4 major domains of the ancient world, and the Divine Land. But there is no place that can solve the mystery of my background. Qin Badian said. Qin Feiyang frowned and suddenly said, then could the mystery of your background be on the 4th level of the miracle? The 4th level of the miracle? Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang were stunned. Yes. There are more than 3 levels of the miracle. There is a 4th level. But according to the guardians of the miracle, it is very difficult to enter the 4th level. First of all, you must have the cultivation of the imperishable realm. The fire dragon in the miracle should be on the 4th level now. Qin Feiyang said. We have never thought about this. What kind of world will the 4th level be like? Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang were curious. I heard from the small beast that there are as many imperishable realm experts on the 4th level of the miracle as dogs. Qin Feiyang said. How is that possible? It's too exaggerated. Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang shook their heads. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, I also think it's a bit exaggerated, but it's hard to say. What if it's true? Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang looked at each other. If that was the case, then the 4th level would be incredible. Qin Badian said, let's talk about the mystery of my background later. Now, let's deal with the dragons first. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded, got up, and said with a smile, then I'll bother you. After saying that, he turned around and was about to leave. Feiyang. Qin Badian said. Qin Feiyang stopped and looked back at Qin Badian. Qin Badian said, the hope of destroying the dragons is now on you. You must work hard to carry this heavy burden. On me, Qin Feiyang muttered and shook his head, don't expect too much from me, because even I don't have much confidence in myself. Finished. Qin Feiyang took a step forward and disappeared without a trace. Lu Xingyang retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Batian. Are we putting too much pressure on him? There's only motivation when there's pressure. Besides, I believe in him. Qin Batian smiled slightly. The Devil's Land. Qin Feiyang returned to the Devil's Land and went straight into the castle, sitting in the hall. In the castle hall, the fire lotus had already been set up. There were chairs, tea tables, potted plants, and so on. It was exactly like a warm little home. Sitting at the tea table, Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and took out 5 boxes. One of them was a jade box, about the size of a palm. As for the other 4, they were basically long metal boxes. That's right. These were the heaven-defying divine objects obtained from hell. He and the madman obtained a total of 6 heaven-defying divine artifacts. Among them, the Blood Demon Tower was with the madman, and the other 5 were in his hands. They were the 5 boxes in front of him. He remembered that King Yu said that once he left hell, the seal would automatically be removed. Now, Qin Feiyang carefully observed it and found that it was indeed the case. The seals on the 5 boxes no longer existed. Qin Feiyang first opened the palm-sized jade box. When the jade box was opened, a vast aura suddenly surged out. At the same time, there was also a dazzling golden light. Heaven-defying divine art. The white-eyed wolf rushed out of the cultivation room and stood beside Qin Feiyang, staring at the jade slip in the jade box, his eyes emitting a green light. Inside the jade box, there was a golden jade slip. This aura was clearly a heaven-defying divine art. Don't snatch it. Qin Feiyang stared at the white-eyed wolf. Not snatching, not snatching. The white-eyed wolf waved his claws. Although his mouth said that he wouldn't snatch it, his body was very honest. While Qin Feiyang wasn't paying attention, he snatched the jade box with his claws. Qin Feiyang's face suddenly darkened. The white-eyed wolf was too lazy to pay attention to him and took out the jade slip to check. Soon, a bright light burst out from his eyes. What divine art is this? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. The white-eyed wolf shook his head and said, "Too disappointing, it's actually not a heaven-defying divine art." It's not? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes, it's not. So don't look at it. The white-eyed wolf nodded, but his claws were holding the jade slip tightly. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched, and said angrily, "Do you think I'm a fool?" "Ha!" The white-eyed wolf laughed dryly. Qin Feiyang said helplessly, "Let me take a look first, I'll give it to you when the time comes." "There's really nothing to see," the white-eyed wolf said with a bitter face. "Are you forcing me to fall out with you?" Qin Feiyang said with a dark face. "Why don't you believe me?" The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyang said angrily, "I'll count to 3, if you don't give it to me, I'll really fall out with you. Take it, take it." Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf pouted and threw the jade slip to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang caught the jade slip, stared at it curiously, and then sank his spirit into the jade slip. 3 bold and vigorous words immediately appeared in his mind. Heavenly God art. Didn't you say it's not a heaven-defying divine art? Qin Feiyang immediately stared at the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf smiled embarrassedly. Qin Feiyang had no choice but to continue reading. There were a total of 5 moves in the Tianshan art. Each move was stronger than the previous one. The power of the last move had reached the peak of the heaven-defying divine art. Moreover, this jade slip also contained the profound meaning of the Tianshan art. In other words, there was no need to comprehend it at all, as long as he understood it. "Little Qin Zi, look, I've been with you for so long, haven't I? You have 4 heaven-defying divine arts, but I don't even have one. Don't you think this is shabby? Also, look at you now, you're already a world-famous big shot, but I'm still just a nobody. It's stressful to walk with you. Do you have the heart to make me feel so uncomfortable?" The white-eyed wolf knew that he couldn't snatch it by force, so he began to pretend to be pitiful and sympathetic. Chapter 2882. You have the heart. Qin Feiyang nodded. You, the white-eyed wolf gritted its teeth. I'll endure it. It smiled obsequiously, looked at Qin Feiyang, and sighed, let's not talk about anything else. I didn't make any contributions these years, but I should have some hard work. What hard work? Qin Feiyang held back his laughter and asked suspiciously. This, the white-eyed wolf couldn't say anything for a while. Say it. I'm waiting to see your performance. Qin Feiyang looked at it jokingly. Do you have to be like this? Do you believe that I won't fall out with you first? The white-eyed wolf couldn't help it anymore and roared with its teeth bared. So be it, I'm not afraid of you. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. Ahem. The white-eyed wolf didn't have a temper and smiled, I'm joking, I'm just joking. How would I dare to fall out with you? Come, come, let me massage your back and shoulders. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. This guy, for the sake of the heaven-defying divine art, was really humble. Take it. Qin Feiyang threw the jade scroll to the white-eyed wolf. Really? The white-eyed wolf caught the jade scroll and couldn't believe it. You don't want it? Then give it back to me. Qin Feiyang reached out to grab it. In your dreams. The white-eyed wolf grinned and then ran into the cultivation room, closing the stone door with a bang. This guy. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed, then opened one of the iron boxes. A bronze sword suddenly appeared. It was about 1 meter long and as wide as a palm. Except for the blade, it was engraved with complicated inscriptions. On the hilt, there were 2 small words engraved. Dragon Slayer. Qin Feiyang took it out, looked at it carefully, and said with a smile, then you'll be called Dragon Slayer from now on. Buzz. The blade of the Dragon Slayer suddenly emitted a ray of divine light. That's it? Let's have a chat. Qin Feiyang said. However, the Dragon Slayer didn't have any response, and the light dimmed. A little arrogant. Qin Feiyang smiled and opened the remaining 3 iron boxes one after another. These 3 heaven-defying artifacts were a black spear, a long red saber, and a black sickle. The 3 heaven-defying divine artifacts' spirit didn't react. The black spear was almost 3 meters long. Its entire body was as black as ink, and it seemed to contain the power of gods and demons. The crimson long saber seemed to be made of magma, and there was a vivid fire phoenix pattern on it. It was the saber was the saber. Qin Feiyang looked at it for a moment and said with a smile, then you'll be called Black Demon Spear, Sky Phoenix Saber, and Death God Scythe. Let me introduce myself. I'm Qin Feiyang, and I have the power of the purple gold dragon blood. The 3 heaven-defying artifacts trembled slightly in response to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. After all, it was the first time they met, so it was normal for them to be cold. He asked, have you heard of the Land of Origin? The Land of Origin. A hoarse voice came from the Black Demon Spear. It seemed to be a little shocked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Hearing this, the Black Demon Spear fell silent again. However, Qin Feiyang could feel that there was a trace of desire in the 4 heaven-defying artifacts' emotional fluctuations. Qin Feiyang got up and walked out of the castle. He looked up at the sky and said loudly, little brat, come out. If you call me little brat again, I'll destroy you. The little boy appeared in the sky and said angrily. You're small, but you have a big temper. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. You have a problem with that? The little boy raised his eyebrows. I wouldn't dare. Qin Feiyang quickly waved his hand and said with a smile, Is there any free place in the land of origin? Why? The little boy was suspicious. Qin Feiyang pointed at the 4 heaven-defying artifacts and said with a smile, Let them go to the land of origin for a stroll. Stroll? Do you think the land of origin is your backyard? The little boy rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. The little boy looked at the 4 heaven-defying artifacts and said, Anyway, there are already so many artifacts in the land of origin. It doesn't matter if there are 4 more. Good, good, good. Qin Feiyang was delighted. But there's a condition. The little boy said again. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and asked suspiciously, What condition? If there's a chance in the future, get some more spirit vein and crystal vein. The little boy said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. There are already so many spirit veins and crystal veins. Isn't that enough? Who would complain about having more of these things? Moreover, the more spirit veins and crystal veins there are, the faster the black tortoise world will grow. The birth of the power of origin will also speed up at the same time. Otherwise, how can there be enough heaven-defying artifacts for them to absorb? The little boy said. Is that so? All right then. When we defeat the dragons in the future, I'll also get the spirit vein and crystal vein of the divine dragon island to the black tortoise world. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. The spirit vein and crystal vein of the divine dragon island would definitely not be less than the current black tortoise world. That's for the best. Work hard, young man. The little boy chuckled. Then, with a wave of his little hand, he disappeared with the 4 divine artifacts. Who's the young man here? Qin Feiyang shook his head and looked around. Almost everything was arranged, it was time to cultivate in seclusion. But before that, he still had to open the door of potential. Qin Feiyang turned and entered the cultivation room. Dan Wangkai was refining pills. Qin Feiyang asked him for a pill to open the door of potential, then went to find Hua Yi. With the help of pressure, he instantly opened the door of potential. Subsequently, Qin Feiyang did not enter the cultivation room. Because Dan Wangkai was refining pills in his cultivation room, it was inevitable that there would be some commotion during the refining process, so it was not suitable to cultivate inside. And Dan Wangkai could not go all out. After thinking for a while, Qin Feiyang thought of a good place and quickly rushed into the medicine field, then went underground. The underground was full of spirit veins and crystal veins, like huge divine dragons. There were even more spirit stones and divine crystals. Qin Feiyang sat cross-legged on a rank 8 divine level spirit vein and began to cultivate. Cultivating in seclusion here was better than on the ground. Because here, he could directly absorb the energy of the spirit vein. And to break through to the half-step imperishable realm, he needed to refine a total of 10 trillion spirit stones. This was not a small number. Qin Feiyang could refine about 4,500 spirit stones a day now. Calculating carefully, it would take more than 6 million years. This astronomical number made Qin Feiyang feel helpless. But fortunately, the Black Tortoise realm had a time array. 1 day, 1,000 years. 10 days, 10,000 years. 100 days, 100,000 years. 1,000 days was 1 million years. In other words, now, he only needed 6,000 days. 6,000 days, which was 16 or 17 years. 16 or 17 years was not long in the current 9 heavens realm. However, he could not be careless. Because the divine dragon island also had a time array. What if Long Zun stepped into the half-step dominator realm before him? Then, he would have no chance of winning. So, he had to step into the imperishable realm before Long Zun. At that time, with the help of all the divine artifacts, and the people of the Dragon Slayer Palace, he might be able to fight. Wait! Qin Feiyang suddenly raised his eyebrows and took out the image crystal. Buzz! A shadow appeared. It was the Fire Lotus. Fire Lotus asked, Qin Dage, what are you doing? Help me collect blood. Qin Feiyang said. Collect blood? Fire Lotus was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang said. How do I collect it? Fire Lotus was suspicious. You will have a way. By the way, send a message to Jiang Dafei and the others and ask them for help. The more the better. Qin Feiyang said. All right. Fire Lotus nodded. After Qin Feiyang turned off the image crystal, he closed his eyes and began to cultivate in seclusion. Fire Lotus was above a mountain in the western region at this moment, with a large number of medicinal herbs beside her. At this moment, she did not care about those medicinal herbs and lowered her head, deep in thought. Whoosh! About a moment later, several figures landed in front of her. They were Yi Zhong, the 3 Black Panther brothers, and 2 middle-aged men. They were Pai Lupi and Theta Wang. Big sister, what's wrong? You look troubled. The Black Panther boss asked suspiciously. Fire Lotus glanced at the Black Panther old man, then looked at Yi Zhong and said, Old man Yi, Qin Dage just sent me a message, asking me to collect blood? Collect blood? Yi Zhong was slightly stunned and asked in confusion, why is he collecting blood? Fire Lotus said, I think Qin Dage is preparing for the final battle. After all, Long Zun is too strong and has a sovereign divine weapon. Qin Dage may not have much confidence. You mean, he is collecting blood to prepare for the opening of the slaughter zone? Yi Zhong said. Yes. You have seen the power of the slaughter zone. According to Qin Dage's speculation, the final power of the slaughter zone should be comparable to a sovereign divine weapon. If we can collect enough blood, our chances of winning the final battle will be higher. But it's almost impossible to collect so much blood. Fire Lotus frowned. Comparable to a sovereign divine weapon? Yi Zhong was shocked. Is a sovereign divine weapon very strong? Pai Lupi and Theta Wang looked at the two of them suspiciously. Very strong. It can easily kill a heaven-defying divine weapon. Fire Lotus nodded. The two of them looked at each other. This was too terrifying. This is indeed a difficult problem. Although there are so many creatures in the Black Tortoise realm, we can't just kill the innocent. Yi Zhong frowned. Old man Yi, Miss Fire Lotus, I have an idea. Pai Lupi suddenly spoke. The two of them were stunned. They looked at Pai Lupi and smiled expectantly. Tell us. I remember that the last time the sovereign divine weapon needed blood, he didn't kill the innocent. Instead, he asked the creatures of the Black Tortoise realm to give him some. At that time, the creatures of the Black Tortoise realm all contributed blood, including us. And now, we can also use this method. Let every creature of the Black Tortoise realm contribute some blood. This way, we can collect blood without harming them. It can be said that we have the best of both worlds. Pai Lupi said methodically. Fire Lotus and Yi Zhong looked at each other, then looked at Pai Lupi and smiled. Good idea. Seeing the two of them looking at him with admiration, Pai Lupi felt a little embarrassed. He scratched his head and smiled. Let's do it this way. The two of you have more prestige in the Black Tortoise realm than us. I'll leave this matter to you. Fire Lotus looked at Pai Lupi and Theta Wang and smiled. We'll do our best. The two of them bowed. But remember, you can't force them to donate blood. It has to be voluntary. If you really meet someone who's unwilling, you have to persuade them with emotion and reason. Fire Lotus reminded. Don't worry. Although our cultivation isn't as high as yours, our prestige in the Black Tortoise realm is, as you said, greater than yours. As long as we say the word, most of the creatures of the Black Tortoise realm will definitely donate blood. Pai Lupi said. Chapter 2883. Pai Lupi, keep a low profile. Theta Wang tugged at Pai Lupi's sleeve. Didn't they know who these two people were? One was Qin Feiyang's master, and the other was Qin Feiyang's sister. Was it good to be so high profile? It's okay. Sometimes, it's better to be high profile. If you do this well, I'll reward you handsomely. Huolian said with a pleasant smile. There's no need to reward. Pai Lupi and I can have our current status in the Black Tortoise world because of you and the Lord Ruler. So, this is what we should do. Theta Wang quickly waved her hand. I'm very pleased that you think so, but that's that. You still have to be rewarded. Fire Lotus smiled and said, then go and make the arrangements. With that, Fire Lotus looked at the three Black Panther brothers and said, and you guys, follow these two and assist them throughout. We promise to complete the task. The three Black Panther brothers roared. Go! Fire Lotus waved her hand. After Pai Lupi, Theta Wang, and the three Black Panther brothers left, Yi Zhong smiled and said, they know how to repay kindness. These two are really good. Yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have trained them. Fire Lotus nodded and smiled. Then, with a wave of her hand, the medicinal herbs floating in the void fell to the ground below like a fairy scattering flowers. Then, she looked at Yi Zhong and said, the crystal vein and spirit vein are almost ready, right? Yes. Yi Zhong nodded. Then you can go back to the Devil's Land. I'll go to Zhongzhou and find Qin Batian and ask them to help collect the blood. Fire Lotus said. That's a good idea. The people of the dragon-slaying palace are very strong. The stronger one's cultivation, the better the effect on the slaughter zone. The dragon-slaying palace has more than 20 million people. Each person contributes 1 point. That's quite shocking. Yi Zhong said. Fire Lotus shook her head. You can't just contribute a little. Then how much do we have to contribute? Yi Zhong was doubtful. Given the cultivation of those people from the Dragon Slayer Palace, even if they contribute more than half of their blood, they will recover in a few days. Therefore, I plan to have them donate their blood every 10 days to half a month, until the day Qin Dage breaks through. Fire Lotus said. Ugh! Yi Zhong was stunned. He smiled bitterly and said, aren't they being used as tools to donate blood? This is a preparation for the destruction of the dragons. I believe they understand. As for the other living beings in the Black Tortoise world, I'll have Pai Lupi and the others collect them once every 6 months. In short, the more the merrier. Fire Lotus said. If you want to collect them like this, I'm afraid that after thousands or tens of thousands of years, there won't be a container that can hold all this blood. Yi Zhong shook his head. That doesn't matter. The Western region's plate is the largest. At most, we'll withdraw all the living beings in the Western region. If that's not enough, we'll withdraw the living beings in the Southern region. These two regions are specially used to store blood. Fire Lotus said. Yi Zhong looked at Fire Lotus in a daze. Withdrawing the living beings in the two regions to store blood was a huge project. If the two domains were to be fully stocked, then after Qin Feiyang absorbed all of it, to what extent would the might of the slaughter domain soar? He didn't even dare to think about it. Half a month later. The news of the blood spread in the Black Tortoise world. Everyone's reaction was unexpectedly good. They all volunteered to donate blood. Of course. There were also some living beings who were unwilling. However, those who weren't willing to donate blood were spurned. The Lord Ruler gave us soul veins and crystal veins, divine artifacts and techniques, and even medicinal herbs and pills. It can be said that everything we have now was freely given to us by the Lord Ruler. The Lord Ruler is so good to us. He's just asking you to donate some blood, and you're unwilling? Let me tell you, if you're unwilling, the entire Black Tortoise world will spurn you. There will be no place for you in the Black Tortoise world. Soul stones, divine crystals, and medicinal herbs. Don't even think about it. Just think about it, who would be able to withstand such abuse? No one wanted to be the target of public criticism. Gradually, all of the living beings offered up their blood. Later, a blood donation frenzy appeared. The amount of blood collected increased day by day. As the 900,000 soul veins and crystal veins grew, the cultivation environment of the Black Tortoise world improved. After tens of thousands of years, the cultivation environment of the various regions was comparable to that of the Devil's Land. It was the same in the Middle Prefecture. The dragon-slaying palace originally had many crystal veins and soul veins. Qin Feiyang gave them another 50,000 crystal veins and soul veins, which improved the cultivation environment of the dragon-slaying palace by a large margin. The people of the dragon-slaying palace were very grateful to Qin Feiyang for this. Therefore, they didn't resist at all when it came to donating blood. Every once in a while, they would take the initiative to donate blood. This was because they knew better than the people of the Black Tortoise world about where the blood came from. Qin Feiyang stored the blood for the future battle with the dragons. Why did the dragon-slaying palace exist? That was to destroy the dragon clan. They donated blood to contribute to the destruction of the dragons. Therefore, no one in the dragon-slaying palace objected. They all supported it unconditionally. At the same time, outside, Jiang Dafei, Lei Bing, Wang Qi, Fan Yunzhang, and the others were also collecting blood. Moreover, it wasn't just the lords of the northern, western, southern, and eastern cities. When they heard about this, they also spontaneously organized to help collect blood. They were also members of the dragon-slaying palace and followers of Qin Feiyang, so they naturally worked harder. One day, Fire Lotus was cultivating in seclusion in the herb field. Buzz! The image crystal suddenly rang. Fire Lotus took out the image crystal, and Jiang Dafei's image appeared. What's wrong? Fire Lotus asked with a smile. Miss Fire Lotus, we have no place to store the blood we collected. Why don't you transfer it to the Black Tortoise world first? Jiang Dafei said. Is it that exaggerated? Fire Lotus was surprised. You don't know how united the Divine Land is now. When we said that we needed blood to deal with the dragons, most of the people in the Divine Land took the initiative to donate blood. Jiang Dafei said. This is really surprising. Fire Lotus said. Yeah, we're quite surprised too. But this also shows that everyone actually hates the dragons. It's just that they didn't dare to say anything in the past. Jiang Dafei said. This is a good thing. However, only Qin Dage can go out of the Black Tortoise world. Now that Qin Dage is in seclusion, I really don't want to disturb him. Fire Lotus said. It's because I know that the young lord is in seclusion that I didn't send him a message directly. Also, the people in the eastern, western, and southern regions have long wanted to see the young lord. Jiang Dafei said. Why do they want to see Qin Dage? Fire Lotus was suspicious. Didn't the young lord tell me to gather these people and sign the slave seal? When these people heard about this, they all said that they were willing to be controlled. So I want to ask, when can I see the young lord? Jiang Dafei said. This, Fire Lotus hesitated. Should she wake up Qin Dage? Whoosh! At this moment, the little boy appeared beside Fire Lotus and said, Don't disturb him. Fire Lotus said, Without Qin Feiyang, how can I go out? Isn't this simple? The little boy smiled proudly. Fire Lotus was stunned, then suddenly slapped her forehead and laughed. I forgot, you can also leave the Black Tortoise world. The little boy put his hands behind his back and said in a deep voice, not only me and Qin Feiyang, you can also freely enter and exit the Black Tortoise world in the future. Me? Fire Lotus was stunned. That's right. I have seen your performance over the years, you are a trustworthy person. So now, I will give you the authority to freely enter and exit the Black Tortoise world. After the little boy finished speaking, he waved his hand behind his back, and a dazzling pentagram mark entered Fire Lotus's forehead. Now try it. The little boy said. Can I really? Fire Lotus touched her forehead, as if she didn't feel anything. Won't you know if you try? The little boy said. Fire Lotus looked suspiciously at the little boy, then with a thought, she appeared on the coast of the inner sea. Miss Fire Lotus. The Mermaid Emperor was sitting on the coast, and when he sensed Fire Lotus's aura, he immediately opened his eyes and greeted her with a smile. But Fire Lotus was completely stunned at this moment. She looked at the Dragon God mountain range and the inner sea, her expression was full of shock. She could actually leave the Black Tortoise world? Miss Fire Lotus? The Mermaid Emperor looked suspiciously at Fire Lotus. Ah! Fire Lotus came back to her senses, looked at the Mermaid Emperor, and hurriedly said, sorry, I was a little distracted. It's fine. The Mermaid Emperor smiled. Then we will talk later. After Huolian finished speaking, she appeared in the herb field in the next moment. How is it? The little boy grinned. Fire Lotus scanned the herb field, then looked at the little boy. You have this kind of authority? Of course. As long as I am willing, all living beings in the Black Tortoise world can freely enter and leave. The little boy said proudly. Fire Lotus was stunned, and said suspiciously, then before, the little boy said, you should know the danger of freely entering and leaving the Black Tortoise world. Yes. Fire Lotus nodded and said, if it is not someone you can trust, it will bring great danger to the Black Tortoise world. That's right. In the past, I did not give you this authority because I could not truly trust you. But your performance in these years has been really good. Especially in the aspect of managing the Black Tortoise world, I am very satisfied. So I thought about it and decided to give you this authority, so that you don't have to look for Qin Feiyang for everything. The little boy said. Thank you. Fire Lotus smiled gratefully. You are the first person to have this authority, don't disappoint me, and don't hurt Qin Feiyang's heart. After all, he treats you like his own sister. If you do anything to let him down, he will definitely break down. The little boy said. You don't have to worry about that. Anyone can betray Qin Dage, but I won't. Fire Lotus said. I believe you. Then you can go back to your work. The little boy chuckled, then disappeared without a trace. Now it's convenient. Fire Lotus smiled happily, then put away the image crystal and left the Black Tortoise world. Chapter 2884. If he encountered any problems now, he could just look for Fire Lotus. Qin Feiyang could focus on his seclusion. Outside. Fire Lotus chatted with the Mermaid Emperor for a while before heading to Holy Dragon City to look for Jiang Dafei. Behind the city lord's mansion. At this moment, the entire back mountain had been lifted into the air and turned into a round pit. The diameter of the huge pit was more than 12 miles and it was filled with blood. This was a genuine blood lake. Fortunately, there was a barrier sealing it. Otherwise, the entire Holy Dragon City would be shrouded in the smell of blood. At the entrance, there were more than 12 guards guarding it. Moreover, at this moment, there was a long line of hundreds of people at the entrance. They entered the barrier in an orderly manner, cut their wrists, and poured their blood into the blood lake. They all volunteered to donate blood, and there are tens of thousands of people coming almost every day. Not far away. Jiang Dafei and Fire Lotus stood together and looked at the people at the entrance. Jiang Dafei smiled. They are indeed very united. Fire Lotus nodded. This is all brought by the young lord. If it weren't for the young lord sealing off the internal sea and imprisoning the dragons on Divine Dragon Island, how would they dare to donate blood so blatantly? Jiang Dafei said. How do we give them soul stones? Fire Lotus looked at the entrance. Every person who donated blood would be given some soul stones by the guards at the entrance. This is to compensate them. After all, they have no obligation to donate blood. They are purely helping out of kindness. And doing this can also serve as an incentive. Jiang Dafei explained. This idea is quite good. Fire Lotus nodded. Now, all the city lords' mansions in the entire Divine Land do this. Actually, the Black Tortoise world can also do this to encourage people to donate blood. Jiang Dafei said. There is no need for the Black Tortoise world. Fire Lotus waved her hand. Why? Jiang Dafei was puzzled. Because the spirit vein and crystal vein of the Black Tortoise world were given to them by Qin Dage. Is there a need to give them soul stones? Actually, they are obligated to donate blood. After all, the cultivation environment they have now was given to them by Qin Dage. Fire Lotus smiled faintly. Jiang Dafei stared blankly for a moment before nodding with a smile. That's true. You don't have to consider the soul stones on your side either. If you don't have it, ask me for it. Right now, the Black Tortoise world has plenty of soul stones. Fire Lotus smiled. Then I won't stand on ceremony with you. Jiang Dafei was delighted. Frankly speaking, this burden was quite heavy. Think about it, there are tens of thousands of people coming here every day for blood. Even if it was 10 soul stones per person, 10,000 people would still cost 100,000 soul stones. If one day was 100,000, what about 10 days, 100 days, 1,000 days, or even longer? It was still okay for a short period of time. With the city lord's manor's financial resources, they could still barely afford it. However, as time passed, the city lord's mansion became powerless. We're all working for Qin Dage. Why are you being so polite? While you're at it, tell the people in the south, east, and west that Qin Dage is in seclusion and he doesn't need to be controlled by the slave seal for now. But even if they weren't controlled, I would still treat them equally. You can come to me for reimbursement for all your expenses. But the prerequisite is that these soul stones are truly used for the right purpose. Fire Lotus said. Jiang Dafei asked, so you're not allowed to feign compliance and secretly pocket money? Yes. If I encounter such a person, I definitely won't let him off. Fire Lotus's eyes flashed coldly. Don't worry. If there really is such a person, I won't need you to do anything. I'll go and kill him myself. Jiang Dafei said. Then from now on, your place will be the blood transfer station. The blood from various places will be sent to you first, then you can transfer it to me. I'll also give you the soul stones directly. When the time comes, you can transfer them to them. Fire Lotus said. Okay. Jiang Dafei nodded. Time flew. With everyone's efforts, more and more blood was produced. In the end, Fire Lotus really emptied out the western region. The entire western region of the Black Tortoise world gradually turned into a sea of blood. Because of this, the western region became a forbidden area of the Black Tortoise world. Without the permission of Fire Lotus and Yizhong, no one in the Black Tortoise world was allowed to step into the western region. Originally, Fire Lotus's plan was that if the western region wasn't enough, then they would vacate the southern region. However, the growth of the Black Tortoise world was beyond imagination. This continent was growing bigger and bigger every day. the western region was also growing bigger and bigger. After 1,000,000 years, the Black Tortoise world had grown twice as big. In other words, the Black Tortoise world was already comparable to 2 northern regions. When Qin Feiyang came out of seclusion, the Black Tortoise world would probably be comparable to the Divine Land. At the same time, everyone's cultivation was also improving. Especially Qin Chen. With the accumulation of resources, his cultivation was advancing by leaps and bounds every day. The number of people and beasts in the Black Tortoise world who had broken through to the 9 Heavens realm was also increasing day by day. Pai Lupi and Theta Wang had already stepped into the Great Perfection 9 Heavens realm. Wang Ming's body had also been reconstructed and he was also working hard to break through to the Great Perfection 9 Heavens realm. Boom! Suddenly one day, a terrifying aura erupted in the Devil's Land. The emergence of this aura alarmed everyone. Everyone ran out one after another and looked towards a courtyard. That was the courtyard where Yizhong was. The owner of the aura was Yizhong. This old thing actually broke through before me. Next door, Supreme Cloud stood on the 2nd floor and muttered to himself as he looked at Yizhong's courtyard. That's right. The person who broke through was Yizhong. Great Perfection Undead Realm. This cultivation had already surpassed the ancestral dragon. Soon, the aura dissipated. Yizhong walked out of the house and glanced at the people outside the courtyard. He was glowing. Sorry to disturb everyone. Yizhong smiled. Supreme Cloud snorted. Isn't it just breaking through to the Great Perfection Undead Realm first? What's there to be proud of? Am I proud of myself? Yizhong looked at Supreme Cloud in astonishment. Old thing. Supreme Cloud cursed inwardly and turned to enter the room. What a pair of enemies. Fire Lotus and the others shook their heads and entered the courtyard with a smile. Old Yi, congratulations. Thank you. Yizhong smiled and then said, although I've broken through to the Great Perfection Undead Realm, I can't be arrogant. After all, our opponents are the dragons. Everyone nodded. Longzuan and the ancestral dragons were also working hard. Maybe the ancestral dragons had also broken through. Then everyone hurry up and continue to cultivate. Don't waste time. Yizhong waved his hand. Everyone chatted for a while and then turned to leave with smiles on their faces. Yizhong stepping into the Great Perfection Undead Realm was undoubtedly a calming agent for everyone. This was because a peak imperishable realm expert could play an absolute role. Old Yi, are you going to break through to the Great Perfection Undead Realm next? Fire Lotus didn't leave and asked. How can it be so easy to break through to the Great Perfection Undead Realm? I'm going to comprehend the power of law. I'm going to try to raise the power of law to the 3rd stage before the battle. Then our chances of winning will be higher. Yizhong said. That's true. Fire Lotus nodded. Qin Feiyang's plan was to declare war on the dragons as soon as he stepped into the undead realm. Therefore, there wasn't much time left for Yizhong. Especially to break through to the Great Perfection Undead Realm, it was better to comprehend the power of law. Another period of time passed. Boom! Another terrifying aura erupted in the Devil's Land. The person who broke through was Supreme Cloud. In other words, Supreme Cloud had also stepped into the Great Perfection Undead Realm. The strength of the Black Tortoise Realm had increased by another level. Boom! Another period of time passed. A powerful aura erupted again. But this aura couldn't compare to Yizhong and Supreme Cloud. The strength of this aura was at the Great Perfection Undead Realm. The person who broke through was none other than Wang Ming. After continuous efforts, he finally stepped into the Great Perfection Undead Realm. But after the breakthrough, Wang Ming didn't continue to cultivate in seclusion. He chose to leave the Devil's Land and travel the world. He wanted to comprehend the power of law. Because the power of law was the most powerful method and also the opportunity to step into the sovereign realm. There were also Hua Yi, Feng Da Ji, and the five-clawed golden dragon. They didn't cultivate in seclusion. When they returned to the Black Tortoise realm, they discussed and went out alone. Because they had just broken through not long ago, it was impossible for them to break through before the final battle. After all, the time needed to break through from the initial undead realm to the initial undead realm was longer than Qin Feiyang. So, they also directly chose to comprehend the power of law. Whether they could comprehend it or not was one thing, but at least they had to work hard in this direction. Especially Hua Yi. After learning about the sovereign realm, he yearned for the power of law even more. Moreover, he didn't want to lose to Qin Feiyang, let alone to Fire Lotus. As for Devil Ancestor, Dong Zhengyang, Mu Qin, Mu Tianyang, Mermaid Princess, Zhao Tailai, White-Eyed Wolf, Li Changfeng, and the others, they were all like Qin Feiyang, wholeheartedly trying to break through to the half-step undead realm. Because for them, the power of law was still too far away. They had to step into the undead realm first. But there was an exception. Everyone was cultivating hard, except for him. This person was Dan Wangkai. He was only obsessed with alchemy and wasn't interested in anything else. It was also because of this infatuation that he concocted pills non-stop every day. In terms of attainments in the path of alchemy, he had already surpassed Qin Feiyang. And now, with the growth of his spiritual power, he could already refine divine pills with 4 dragon-shaped elixirs. Now Dan Wangkai could be called an alchemy master. Then there was Zhongzhou. With a one-day, 1,000-year time array and better resources than before, the cultivation of the people of the Dragon Slayer Palace was also advancing rapidly. The Peak 9 Heavens realm stepped into the half-step undead realm one by one. The half-step undead realm stepped into the initial undead realm one by one. The initial undead realm, such as the 108 generals, slowly broke through to the initial undead realm. The Ice Emperor and the Rain Emperor were also trying to break through to the final undead realm. Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang were also working hard. In short, everyone's cultivation was improving. In the blink of an eye, 2 million years had passed in the Black Tortoise realm. 2 million years in the Black Tortoise realm, but only 2,000 days had passed in the outside world. 2,000 days was only a little more than 5 years. In other words, since Qin Feiyang went into seclusion, only a little more than 5 years had passed in the outside world. For a cultivator, especially a creature from the divine prefecture, 5 years was just a blink of an eye. It was also this morning, northern region, land of the undead. On the square, the dim stone door suddenly emitted wisps of divine light. With the emergence of the divine light, several figures walked out of the stone door one after another. This stone door was the connection point between the divine sight and the ancient world. Chapter 2885. I'm back. One of the young men glanced at the land of the undead and suddenly let out a loud laugh. An old man in straw sandals glanced around and said suspiciously, "Madman, where is this place? Are you sure we're back in the ancient world?" "That's right." This young man was Madman. Madman looked at the old man and said disdainfully, "You're too ignorant, old man. You don't even know about the land of the undead." Ahem. The old man coughed and said speechlessly, "I've never been to the North region, how would I know about the land of the undead?" "Now you know, the land of the undead is a forbidden area in the North region. The battle between the dragons and my Empyrean palace broke out here." Madman said. "I see." The old man suddenly realized. An old man in green looked at Madman and said, "Don't talk nonsense, quickly send a message to the young master." This person was Yang Li. "Yes." Fire Python said before that Qin Feiyang returned to the ancient world directly. He's probably still in the North region. This time it was a young man in red who spoke. He was Sovereign Beast. Madman nodded and took out an image crystal to send a message to Qin Feiyang, but the result was like a stone sinking into the sea. Sovereign Beast frowned and said, "It seems that he should have returned to the Divine Land." "If the young master returned to the Divine Land, then how do we go back?" Yang Li raised his eyebrows. "Yes. The entrance between the Divine Land and the North region is guarded by dragons, and I heard that Dragon Sovereign personally set up a barrier at the entrance. There's no way we can pass through." The old man in straw sandals and the others also frowned. "It's just a barrier, what's there to be afraid of? I have a heaven-defying artifact now, can't I just kill my way to the Divine Land?" Madman's face was full of disdain. Sovereign Beast and the others were stunned. This fellow was indeed an out-and-out lunatic. "But before that, I have to go to a place first," Madman muttered. "Where?" Sovereign Beast and the others looked at him suspiciously. "An inconspicuous place." After Madman finished speaking, he flashed out of the land of the undead like a bolt of lightning. Then, he activated the altar and disappeared with his group. About 100 breaths passed. In the east of the northern region, above a very ordinary mountain range, Madman and the others appeared out of thin air. The mountain was overgrown with weeds and shrubs. Traces of ferocious beasts could be seen everywhere, but not a single one of them was stronger than a battle saint. This was a very inconspicuous place. But right below it was a small valley, and in the valley sat a small wooden building. However, when the madman looked at the small wooden building, he frowned. Madman flew down and looked around the small wooden building. His brows furrowed even tighter. "What is it?" Venerable Beast was suspicious. "I remember that this place used to be quite clean. Why is it so messy now? There are even weeds on the ground. Look under the eaves, there are spider webs," Madman said. Venerable Beast and the others looked over and found that this place indeed seemed to have been empty for a long time. Madman looked at Molu and shouted, "Old man." However, there was no response from inside the wooden building. Madman walked to the front of the wooden building and pushed open the door. Dust immediately fell down. Madman waved his hand and walked into the wooden building. The furniture in the room was neatly arranged, but it was also covered in dust. Madman walked to the table and touched it. The dust on the table was a millimeter thick. "Where is he?" Madman frowned and shouted, "Old man." But there was still no response. "Stop shouting. This place has obviously been abandoned for a long time." Venerable Beast walked to Madman's side and said. Madman said angrily, "Damn old man, why didn't you say anything when you left? Is this person very important to you?" Venerable Beast was suspicious. "My heaven-defying divine art was given to me by him. Do you think he is important?" Madman said. Venerable Beast's pupils shrank. To be able to give a heaven-defying divine artifact to Madman, just how strong was this person? "Help me look around and see if there are any letters or something like that." Madman looked at Venerable Beast and Yang Li and said. As for the straw sandal old man and the others, they stayed outside and didn't come in. "Okay." Beast Emperor and Yang Li nodded. The three immediately rummaged through the room and began to search. Soon, Yang Li opened a drawer and a trace of suspicion appeared on his face. Inside the drawer, there was an envelope. Yang Li picked up the envelope and flipped it over. There were a few crooked words written on it. "Old man, keep." "Old man?" Yang Li was slightly stunned and said, "Little madman, come over and take a look. There is an envelope with Old Man written on it." "Old man?" Madman was in another room. As soon as he heard Yang Li's voice, he immediately ran over and grabbed the envelope. Yes, this is the old man's handwriting. I used to call him Old Man too." Madman was pleasantly surprised. Venerable Beast also walked in and said, "Then open it and take a look. Maybe it is for you." Madman opened the envelope and took out the letter, but there wasn't much content on it. There was only one sentence. "Little Madman, I am going to travel the world. See you again if fate wills it." "Damn it, you still have the mood to travel the world?" Madman immediately cursed. When Venerable Beast and Yangli heard this, the corners of their mouths couldn't help but twitch slightly. After all, he was the one who gave him a heaven-defying technique. Couldn't he be a little more respectful? It seems that this trip was in vain. Madman shook his head and crushed the letter. There was a trace of disappointment on his face. "Then what should we do now?" Yangli looked at him and asked. "Let's go to Ninth Heaven Palace. Qin Feiyang came to the northern region. He will definitely go to Ninth Heaven Palace. Let's go ask." Madman said. The two nodded. Ninth Heaven Palace. Heaven Stairway. Elder Wei sat cross-legged at the bottom of the Heaven Stairway as usual, guarding Ninth Heaven Palace. The disciples coming and going looked at him with respect in their eyes. Swish! But suddenly, Elder Wei opened his eyes. Two rays of light burst out from his eyes as he looked up at the sky. This action startled the disciples passing by. It was also at this time. A group of people descended in the void above. A terrifying aura suddenly shrouded the mountain peak. Who is it? Their aura is so strong. The disciples who stopped on the mountain peak and the heaven stairway were instantly shocked. But when they looked up, they couldn't help but be stunned. Senior brother Madman? Elder Wei was also stunned. He then stood up and smiled. This old man was wondering who it was. "I didn't expect it to be this little Madman." Hee. Madman grinned and landed on the mountain peak. He swept his gaze at the disciples and said, "What are you looking at?" Scram! The group of disciples immediately fled in panic. So impressive? Beast Venerable and the others were stunned. Madman said proudly, "What a joke." Not to mention the disciples of Ninth Heaven Palace, even in the entire northern region, who wouldn't tremble in fear after hearing this old man's name? Not ashamed, but proud. Elder Wei rolled his eyes. Madman chuckled and asked, "How is the old man?" "Pretty good." Elder Wei nodded. The old man now was naturally referring to the Grand Elder. "Then I won't go see him." Madman waved his hand and asked, "Has Qin Feiyang been here before?" "Yes. He also gave us a lot of divine artifacts, divine arts, spirit veins, and crystal veins." Elder Wei nodded with a smile. "He also gave you spirit veins and crystal veins?" Madman was stunned. "Yes." Elder Wei nodded. Madman said, "At least he still has a conscience." "What about now?" "He returned to the Divine Land a long time ago." Elder Wei said. "Isn't he courting death by going to the Divine Land now?" Madman raised his eyebrows. Elder Wei said, "I heard it's for Shangguanqiu." Shangguanqiu? Madman was stunned. "Yes. Shangguanqiu went to the Divine Land and is still in the treasure pavilion." Elder Wei said. "What the hell? Isn't this nonsense?" Madman's expression suddenly changed. "Qin Feiyang has already gone back. I don't think there will be any changes." Elder Wei said. "You have no idea how strong the dragons are." Madman raised his eyebrows and said, "Okay then, I'll go back to the Divine Land now." "So soon?" Elder Wei was stunned and said, "It's not easy for you to come back. Why don't you stay for a few more days and talk to your grandfather?" "What's there to talk about?" Madman pursed his lips. Elder Wei smiled bitterly and nodded. "Okay. By the way, Qin Feiyang said that you received the inheritance in the Nether King's hell. Did you get it? Of course. Madman smiled proudly and said, now I have mastered 2 kinds of law powers. So powerful? Elder Wei was shocked. Madman said, are you kidding? How can the number 1 genius of the northern region not be powerful? Shameless. Who gave you the courage to call yourself the number 1 genius of the northern region? Elder Wei glared at him. I called myself that. Can't I? Madman chuckled. Elder Wei shook his head helplessly and waved his hand. Go, go. Young people should explore the outside world. But remember, come back when you have time. Okay. Also tell the old man for me. He's already so old. Don't work too hard. Madman said. Got it. Elder Wei nodded. Let's go. Madman turned to look at Beast Venerable and the others and said. Swish. At that moment, a group of people rose into the air and flew towards the Sky Dragon Sea, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Looking at Madman's back, Elder Wei's face was full of smiles. One was Qin Feiyang, and the other was a madman. Both of them were young people with boundless prospects. Swish. At this moment, a figure ran down the sky stairway. It was the Grand Elder. Where is he? The Grand Elder glanced at the peak and asked Elder Wei. Who is it? Elder Wei was suspicious. Of course, it's my grandson. The Grand Elder said. It's him. Elder Wei pretended to be enlightened and said indifferently, he left. What? He left? The Grand Elder was stunned and asked, where did he go? The Divine Land. Elder Wei said. He went to the Divine Land just like that? The Grand Elder was stunned. Otherwise? Elder Wei looked at him suspiciously. The Grand Elder said, shouldn't he come to visit me before leaving? Maybe it's something urgent. Elder Wei held back his laughter and said. No matter how urgent it can't be that short of time, right? What a heartless bastard. The Grand Elder was so angry that his nose was crooked. When he heard the news that Madman had returned, he immediately ran over. But in the end, he had already left. Don't be angry. He asked about your situation and asked me to tell you not to work too hard. It's time to enjoy life. Elder Wei said with a smile. Really? The Grand Elder looked at him suspiciously. Really? Seeing that he left in such a hurry, I guess the situation in the Divine Land is really not good. Elder Wei looked up at the Sky Dragon Sea with a trace of worry in his eyes. Chapter 2886. Above the Sky Dragon Sea, a group of people flew as fast as lightning. It was Madman and the others. Suddenly, the Madman stopped, turned around, and gazed at the Beast Emperor. I heard that you possess an Exalt-grade artifact that can teleport through space? Yes. Beast Emperor nodded. Then quickly take it out and take us to the Divine Land. Madman said. This artifact can directly teleport us to the Divine Land. But back then, before the Nether King's hell opened, Qin Feiyang and Hua Yi brought a heaven-defying artifact into the inner sea. At that time, this artifact had already been snatched away by them. Beast Emperor smiled bitterly. Madman was stunned. Beast Emperor said, otherwise, would have taken it out long ago. You are really unlucky. Of all people to provoke, you had to provoke them. Madman shook his head. Beast Emperor heard this and the bitter smile on his face became even stronger. Madman looked at the end of the Sky Dragon Sea and sighed. Then it seems that we can only fly to the Divine Land. With my cultivation, it won't take long. Beast Emperor said proudly. Madman smiled. Indeed. Beast Emperor was at the great success imperishable realm and also had a supreme auxiliary divine art. If they rushed at full speed, it would only take a few days. Then let's go. The straw sandals old man urged. Boom. However, at this moment, the sound of battle suddenly came from the front. It was normal to have battle sounds in the Sky Dragon Sea. Because many people in the North region like to enter the Sky Dragon Sea to train. Especially the disciples of Nine Heaven Palace. The Heavenly Dragon Sea was their training ground. So logically speaking, Madman wouldn't care. But when Madman sensed the aura of battle, he couldn't help but be stunned. Then, he flew in the direction of the battle fluctuations. What? Beast Emperor and the others chased after him. I met an acquaintance. Madman said without turning his head. Acquaintance? They were slightly taken aback, but when they thought about it, they understood. Madman was originally from the North region, so he must have many acquaintances. Soon, a young man entered their sight. The young man was about 20 years old. He was tall and straight, but at this moment, he was in a sorry state. There were more than a dozen sea beasts surrounding him and beating him up. His body was covered in wounds. Especially on his back, there was a ghastly claw mark. His flesh had been torn off, and blood was gushing out. This kid is crazy. Madman frowned. The youth's cultivation was only a 3-star combat emperor. However, those sea beasts were all 9-star combat emperors. Their strength was not on the same level at all. Who is he? Venerable Beast was suspicious. His name is Long Tianyu. He's quite fated with me and Qin Feiyang. Madman whispered. Fate brought us together? Sovereign Beast was taken aback. Yes. Back then, Qin Feiyang and I were ordered to investigate this kid's background. Because in the past, he did not have a very shocking talent for cultivation. However, one day, he suddenly transformed and became a genius. Later on, according to our investigation, it turned out that he took a pill and opened the door of potential. It was because of him that we found the Grey Castle. The Grey Castle is a heaven-defying divine artifact from the previous era. Later on, the Grey Castle followed Qin Feiyang. We also brought Long Tianyu to Nine Heaven Palace. Since then, he has been staying in Nine Heaven Palace. Madman said. Grey Castle? Sovereign Beast frowned. This Grey Castle is very strong. However, according to Qin Feiyang, it disappeared without a trace after entering Divine Prefecture. I wonder where it is now. I wonder if this Long Tianyu knows. Madman muttered. Sovereign Beast said, how could a brat like him know? His relationship with the Grey Castle is very good. The Grey Castle also likes him very much and treats him like a grandson. Perhaps sometimes when chatting, they inadvertently mentioned it to Long Tianyu. Madman said. Then let's go ask him. Sovereign Beast said. During the conversation, Long Tianyu was in danger. He was about to lose his life under the fangs of those sea beasts. However, just as Madman was about to rescue him, Long Tianyu suddenly erupted with a monstrous aura. His hair and eyes instantly turned blood red. What's going on? Madman and the others were stunned. However, at the same time, Sovereign Beast's eyes were filled with strong killing intent. Immediately after, an even more shocking scene appeared. A surge of blood qi emerged from Long Tianyu's body and instantly drowned the dozen sea beasts. Roar! At that moment, the dozen sea beasts howled miserably. In just a few breaths, the dozen sea beasts turned into white skeletons. All their flesh and blood disappeared. How could this be? The straw sandals old man was surprised. This scene seems familiar. Little demon child muttered. Seems familiar. The green-robed old woman looked at little demon child suspiciously and suddenly thought of something. Li Feng, Xue Ling. That's right. It's Li Feng and Xue Ling. Little demon child's body trembled. Li Feng, Xue Ling, madman murmured as he looked at Long Tianyu. His eyes were filled with surprise. He knew Long Tianyu, but he didn't notice this side of him before. Looking at Long Tianyu again. After the dozen sea beasts died, Long Tianyu quickly returned to his original appearance. The blood color in his long hair and eyes disappeared. Looking at the skeletons of the dozen sea beasts, he seemed a little confused. Boom! Suddenly, a monstrous murderous intent erupted. Madman and the others were shocked and turned to look at Sovereign Beast. They saw Sovereign Beast staring at Long Tianyu with murderous intent in his eyes. At the same time, Long Tianyu was also startled and quickly turned his head. When he saw Madman, his face suddenly lit up with joy. Brother Madman. Long Tianyu didn't notice Sovereign Beast's murderous intent and ran to Madman with a face full of joy. Madman smiled and then stood in front of Long Tianyu. He looked at Sovereign Beast warily and said, "This might just be a coincidence." Coincidence? Sovereign Beast smiled ferociously and said, "The aura he just released is clearly the aura of the Blood Ancestor." What? The aura of the Blood Ancestor? Little demon child and the others looked at Long Tianyu in surprise. Could this little guy be the Blood Ancestor's true body? The blood spirit that followed Li Feng was only a part of the Blood Ancestor's soul. And no one knew where the Blood Ancestor's true body was. Back then, Qin Feiyang and the others had interrogated the blood spirit, but the blood spirit didn't say anything. Madman couldn't help but frown. He had seen the blood spirit before. The aura that Long Tianyu suddenly released was exactly the same as the blood spirit's. But this was too outrageous. He knew Long Tianyu's origin very well. He came from a small mountain village and was just an ordinary young man. How could he be the Blood Ancestor? This must be a coincidence. This can't be a coincidence. Sovereign Beast roared and pushed Madman away. He grabbed Long Tianyu's neck and grinned. "I didn't expect you to be hiding in the northern region." Brother Madman, Long Tianyu panicked. Although he didn't know Sovereign Beast's aura was too terrifying. He couldn't fight back at all. "Sovereign Beast, calm down," Madman shouted. Sovereign Beast said in a deep voice, "There's no mistake. He's the Blood Ancestor." Impossible. When Qin Feiyang and I first saw him, he was only 13 years old. And he was only a three-breath combat emperor. If he's really the Blood Ancestor, how do you explain this? Madman said. Sovereign Beast, don't be rash. We can talk it out. Little Madman wouldn't lie to you. Little Madman and Qin Feiyang already knew Long Tianyu when he was young, so they must know him better than you. Even if there's a problem, we have to ask him first. The straw-sandal old man and the others also tried to persuade him. Sovereign Beast was at the phenomenal imperishable stage, while they were only at the half-step imperishable stage, so it was impossible to stop him. Sovereign Beast glanced at Long Tianyu, then at Madman and the others, frowning. "Trust me. If he's really the Blood Ancestor, I won't let him go," Madman said. He had the ability to stop Sovereign Beast. After all, he had the Blood Demon Tower, a heaven-defying divine artifact. But now, Sovereign Beast was one of them, so there was no need to make such a big fuss. Sovereign Beast's expression changed. But in the end, he let go of Long Tianyu. Long Tianyu immediately ran behind Madman and looked at Sovereign Beast with a face full of fear. Seeing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Madman also let out a long sigh, turned to look at Long Tianyu, and snorted. Weren't you very brave before? How dare you talk back to me? Brother Madman, is this the same? In front of you, no matter how much I talk back, you won't really kill me. But he, Long Tianyu, looked at Sovereign Beast again, and the fear on his face was even stronger. Madman rolled his eyes and said, "Let's get down to business. What happened to you just now?" Just now? Long Tianyu was stunned. Madman said, "Why did you become like that when you were killing those sea beasts?" So that's what happened. Long Tianyu suddenly understood and shook his head. I don't know. How can you not know? Madman frowned. I really don't know. At that time, my mind was blank. When I woke up, the sea beasts had already been killed. And this is already the second time this has happened. Long Tianyu said. The second time? Madman was stunned. Half a year ago, it also happened once. At that time, I was also training in the Sky Dragon Sea and was targeted by a few people with ill intentions. They ambushed me and seriously injured me. I thought I was dead for sure. But just like this time, my mind suddenly went blank. When I woke up, those people had already inexplicably turned into bones. Long Tianyu said. Madman frowned. In other words, even you don't know about this change? Long Tianyu nodded. He shouldn't be lying. Because I noticed that when he woke up, there was indeed a trace of confusion in his eyes. The green-robed old woman said. Sovereign Beast said coldly, maybe he discovered us long ago and deliberately pretended. I didn't pretend. Long Tianyu looked at Sovereign Beast and said with grievance. Humph. Sovereign Beast snorted. Madman glanced at Long Tianyu and then looked at Sovereign Beast. I think he really didn't pretend. How do you know? Sovereign Beast frowned. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.